Good people, it is August 8th, 5:30 PM, and we're bringing this meeting of the Pacific Grove Unified School District to order. As we begin this meeting, it's important to pay respect and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esselen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. So, with that said, looking at the agenda, are there any agenda items that we need to address? And I believe there are.
Point of order?
Yep.
Can we do roll call first?
I'm sorry, I did just jump right over that. I'm sorry.
No
Jen.
worries.
Thank you for calling it out. Yes. Roll call, please.
President
And
Swanson.
actually, you know what? Let's pause just a second
Mhm.
because I see Trustee Dr. Hazen just walking in right now. We're all good. Okay, so roll call.
Yes, indeed. President Swanson.
Present.
Clerk Dr. Hazen.
Here.
He is here. Trustee McNary.
Here.
Trustee Otmar.
I'm here.
And Trustee Swanson.
Here.
Fabulous. Okay, and thank you again, Trustee McNary, for setting us straight on that. So moving on to adoption of the agenda, is there any public comment on the agenda? There are a few additionals. We see nobody online and I see nobody in the room. So we do have a few walk-on items that we're adding, right?
We do, yes. And I'm just going to start by thanking and, first of all, apologizing to our trustees for some last minute walk-ons this afternoon. But as you can see by the nature of them, they were necessary. Some of them really are for some of our back to school events, which are as early as next Tuesday night. So if we didn't bring them forward tonight, it would have been a ratification and we never want those. So the first item is two small revisions have been made to the personnel report. Ms. Carrillo and Ms. Nelson, we needed to correct their status to show that they are resigned. So that's the first correction. And then the next is 4 walk-on items that have been added. The first 3 are contracts for services. One is with Kona Ice, one is with Tacos Don Beto, and then the third is Bratwurst USA. And these are all for Robert Downs open house, back to school night next Tuesday. And then the last walk-on is an MOU with University of Southern California. And this is specifically to allow us to really put into place our agreement that we have with the university to allow for some of our student teachers to be able to be working in our classrooms.
And so, and where are these items actually going within the agenda? Are they?
These would all be consent. I should have started with that. Consent items. Yes, correct.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Adams. If I may, the walk-on is the memorandum of understanding with North Coast School of Education. I believe the USC is already on the consent agenda.
And this is again related to student teachers, right? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So first, again, with those being thrown out there, any public comment on these additional walk-on items? No one and no one in the room. Board. Any issues with these being added to consent?
Can I have a moment to review before we?
Nope.
I'll just take a minute.
And again, it's like, just a point of order. Do we need to number these and slide them into consent in a certain way?
Probably, I think what we could do is, looking at the consent agenda, I would propose that we just make them, following in alphabetical order. So let's see, we have M was our last item. So let's make our 3 contracts for services in that order. So Kona Ice would be N.
Is it
Tacos
Nancy?
Don in Nancy, correct. Tacos Don Beto would be O. And then our Bratwurst USA, P.
Okay.
And then let's make Q the MOU with North Coast. Thank you.
One more point about the North Coast MOU. It is for one of our teachers who is earning a CTE, a quick credential. That's the program that we're going to have the memorandum of understanding with. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief
Chief
Rogan.
Rogaman.
So on that consent, the subject says walk on MOU with University of Southern California. Does that need to be corrected? Or can we just approve it as is?
It should be corrected, yes, to the correct.
Can we
Name of
just
it.
approve it as is and then it'll be corrected?
We can do that.
Okay.
Yes, let's do it. Yep.
I'm good to move forward. Thank you for the minute.
Give everybody just another minute to take a look.
Can I just ask a point of clarification? Is this new MOU, is it replacing the MOU with Southern California? Does that remain L? And then we will now have an additional MOU, which I think is a total of 3
Correct.
different
That-
ones on
We'll
this.
still have the memorandums of understanding with Western Governors College,
Uh-huh.
with the University of Southern California. And then we walked this item on to, address a need that we have at the high school in order for a teacher to earn their credential to be able to teach one of our CTE classes there.
Okay, that helps me understand. Thank you.
I'm just gonna wait a second and look for eye contact when anybody is ready. Everybody's ready. All right, everybody's ready. Okay, so again, I saw no additional public comment. All right, so now we need to, we're looking for approval of the agenda as amended, and we have these walk-on items again, N, O, P, and Q. And I see a motion to approve.
I will move to approve the agenda as amended.
Great. All right. We have a motion from trustee Otmar and a second from trustee Dr. Hazen. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing nobody, that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to move on now to talking about closed session and identifying the topics, negotiations with collective bargaining, and PGTA, which we see all the time. The same with CSEA is number 2. The third, public employee discipline. God, I never get that right. So it's a lot of words. And then number 4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Is there any public comment on these closed session topics? Anyone online? No one, and I see no one in the room. And board, anything? Otherwise, we are going to adjourn to closed session. Here we go. All right, welcome back, good people. We are reconvening. It is August 8th, 6:32, coming back in closed session. I'm going to report on a few items. Item number 1 in closed session, information was received. Item number 2, the same thing, information received. And item number 3, also information received. As it relates to item number 4, there is nothing to report. With that now, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Dr. Adamson, would you be so kind?
Good. Yes. Put right hands over our hearts and ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Republic, which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on now, and this is one of my favorite things. We are going to introduce our new student representative, William Powley. Dr. Adamson, would you do the honor?
Yes, well, thank you. I agree. And one of my favorite things too. And so I am delighted to be introducing to all of you tonight our new student board rep, William Powley. I just want to say a few words about him before we officially have him come up to the front. We're going to take a little photo and then have him officially take his seat. But the student board rep position, it's an important one. It's one that truly allows for the student voice here at the dais as we're, up here having discussions about really everything that impacts our students. So I personally have found that some of the most impactful information and conversations have come when our student board reps get involved and they share, the perspective and really bring that student voice to the discussion. So it's an important role. I got a chance to meet with William yesterday and his new principal, Mr. O'Meara. We had a chance to go over the agenda for this evening, and really I was impressed already just with the questions he asked, with his level of engagement. A big part of the student board rep is they come each night and when at our board meetings, and they have a chance to really share out some information about the high school, of things that are going on. And so I already know he's going to be coming with some great ideas and a great report for his first one this evening. But overall, I'm excited. I'd asked William, yesterday, what is it that he's, most excited about taking on this role? And I loved his answer. He's going to share a little bit of that with us when he takes his seat. So I won't speak for him because I want you to hear it from him directly. But I really just want to make it clear what a crucial role this is that you're going to play in advocating for your peers. And what I'm going to say, my advice to you, William, is that you don't be afraid to share that voice, to ask questions. We want you as involved as possible. And we're thrilled to be able to have you joining us. We're also excited because he happens to be the son of our district nurse. And so that's an added bonus. And it's wonderful to have both his mom and dad with us this evening. You're going to note, yes, he's on crutches. He's just had some surgery recently, but of course, here he is, and he's taking his seat. So maybe the sitting is a good thing. So I'd like us to please, let's put our hands together to congratulate our new student board rep, William Howley. And I'm going to ask you, William, to come up to the front, and I'm going to ask all of our board members if we could all come up, and we want to take a photo together. And I'm going to ask Mr. O'Meara to join us at the front as well, and Assistant Sue John. Let's all come to the front of the dais. And parents, you're welcome to join us as well, please. Yes, I think nice. I like that. Somebody needs to get, gotta give it high. Like Tom.
You got it?
You want Mother just William and parents, if you would like that. Do you want to hold your name? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And hit the flag.
Another round of applause for us.
Yeah, welcome aboard. We have a microphone yet for William too?
Yeah.
Are you going to share?
Share.
All right, sure. Okay. So before we move on to, I do want to just say that, and maybe some of the other board members have something to say as well, but it's like, the student board representative, I do think it's really remarkable that we have it. I love it. We need to get your photo up on the website. You follow in the footsteps of some really remarkable young people too, who have contributed so much, and I trust that you will too. But I mean, I have no doubt at all, and I'm sure your parents are immensely proud. So again, welcome aboard. And I don't know if any of the other board members have anything that they want to add or not.
I'll just say quickly, one of the things, the procedure we undertake might make it seem like your vote doesn't matter, but you are one of the main voices for the students. So we really open up, want you to feel welcome to express your opinions, whatever they are. In agreement with us, disagreement with us. We actually like disagreeing a lot, believe it or not. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly what he said. And we really do value your opinion, and your vote always counts. Students are the reason that we're here. None of us are here without you guys. And so anything that you have to say would be valued by all of us. So just make sure that you are open and honest, and we'll receive that fully. So I'm so glad that you're here.
Yay.
Okay, sure. Mr. Powley, I believe you've been elected by your peers to be here. You hold a certain office at your high school. What is that office?
ASB president.
ASB president. Okay, so something I would love to see from you this year and for your term is to connect with your peers, ask them, and be their representative. So if you have something you see on the agenda that you're not sure about, that's what I do as a representative of the public. I go and I talk to my members of the public and I find out what they think about it, and it helps inform my decision. So I really hope that you're going to do that with your students, and that your students on campus will know that you're the one to talk to bring that information into these meetings. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. I'll keep mine short then. Welcome, and you are the most important person in the room. And I think when we get busy with our agreeing and disagreeing and kind of intense discussion, sometimes it's so valuable that you're here, because typically you cool the temperature down in the room, and also it brings us back to why we're all here. So thank you for being willing to sit up on a dais with a microphone as a high school kid in this room, because overall it can be pretty intimidating, but know how much we want to hear from you. So thanks. Thanks for being here and giving up your Thursdays with us.
I'm good.
Well, I think I really want William to give him the chance to share a little of what he is looking forward to in this position. So I'm going to ask him the question. So William, what excites you most about taking this role on?
Probably I would just say I'm most excited to just learn from you guys as board members, and to just represent the students at the high school and give their input and get to know what they want to see at the school and what they want to see in the district. But yeah, I'd just probably say I'm most excited to like learn and get to know how things work and be able to represent others. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And again, no, too, it's like, and right now you're on crutches. Sometimes these meetings can go long, and if you're ever at the point where it's just like, I gotta go, because you've got classes, you've got studying and all that stuff to do, you get out of here when you need to go too. So, but again, I think we're also happy to have you here. And I think Jen said it especially well too. It's the most important person in the room. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So with that, moving on to communications, I did not have a lot, numerous, if uncountable, email sales pitches and spam. I don't even know. I feel like I need to report out on that, but I'm going to just mention that I got them. One from our youth ambassadors of Pacific Grove, and then one additional relating to classroom access prior to the start of the school day, which we are now in. Board members, any other additional correspondence that you'd like to share?
I got 3 emails regarding cell phone usage, particularly at high school.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I got one about environmental justice. I got one from the California Latina School Board Association. They have a conference and it's in Monterey this year. I got an email about cell phone policy, one about equity and racism in PGUSD. I got one that's let us know that Forest Grove is being recognized as a NOAA Ocean Guardians School. I got an email about interdistrict transfers, and I got 2 emails thanking us for the bond measure approval.
Great, thank you. Trustee Elmer.
I won't repeat anything that anyone has already said, but in addition to that, I did receive an in-person communication regarding lack of communication with parents at Forest Grove.
Thank you. Trustee Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to do this digitally instead of having my pen and paper with it tonight. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also not going to repeat the ones that I already heard. And so I got one email of appreciation regarding our safety, prosperity, and belonging campaigns. Thank you, Linda and team. I got one about the Community Human Services grand opening at Safe Place in Salinas, which is fantastic for that community. I got one about adult school exercise class. I got one asking to sign up for the ECCR course, which is Eurocentric Cultural Reflectionism course. Youth Ambassadors was already said. One related to summer projects at the school sites. One related to equity regarding something on campus at Robert Down. One regarding 4 regarding thank yous regarding the kindergarten kind of reshuffle that was done right before school started to make sure that students didn't have to move schools. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to say that all over again, so it's recorded properly. That's all for written communications. Moving on to board member comments, and I'd like to start with our student rep in case there's anything to share from Student Representative Powley.
Yeah, so the beginning of the school year went really well. We had freshman orientation on Monday, and we have about 140 freshmen, which is really awesome because they're a big class. And then we have some spirit days and a dance next week, which is we're really looking forward to as a student body and a leadership class. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I thought you were going to say we have like how many days left before before the end of the school year. It's like, I think it's more than 140. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to jump in next just to share. I was at the welcome back breakfast and it was so amazing to see everybody, and the energy in the room was just, I mean, it was really palpable. And looking out at all the faces, familiar and new, and seeing how excited everybody was to be there. And I appreciate everybody who endured whatever babbling I did that morning also. And but it's nice to have everybody back. And one last thing, because for some of you know, I live down the street and my office is upstairs looking over the middle school playfield, and the kids' voices are back. And it brings me, I had to pause for a moment there. It's like, oh, there it is again. I love it so much. And again, I was just so happy to hear it again. It's been too long. I know it's only been, whatever, 7 or 8 weeks, but to hear it again, it really filled my heart with great joy. So welcome back, everybody. And that's all I got.
I'll go quickly and just second your point on the back to school breakfast. That was a really amazing opportunity to reconnect with folks, learn common places such as Pinecrest Lake with some of the staff, and then also got an impromptu quick tour of Forest Grove, which was nice to see some of the work being done there. The roof, I know that the roofs aren't as visible as some of the other things we're doing, but it was obviously is one of the most important things we do to keep our buildings safe. So with that, really excited for the start of the school year. Still can't believe I have a high schooler. I'm in denial, but maybe that'll hit me one of these days. So, but anyway, yeah, it's really exciting to get started again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have 2 middle schoolers, so we're in it. Yeah. Superintendent Adamson, this is your first start of the school year as our superintendent for PGUSD. So welcome. And I ditto all of the comments. I left that breakfast feeling energized, and you could just kind of feel the optimism in the room. And it was wonderful. Thanks to Kiwanis for giving us breakfast every year. Another thing, I'm going to be the thank you committee today. So the next thank you is to PGPD. Thank you for coordinating extra patrol on the first day of school. It's a big deal, and not everyone in the community is tracking when our kids are going back to school. So seeing an officer on Congress, on Sunset, seeing Officer literally in the crosswalk in front of Robert Down, and then seeing someone, oops, get pulled over in front of the middle school, it was like, yes, thank you for the presence. Thank you for keeping the kids safe. So, and then just another thank you to Assistant Superintendent Jorn, Director Anderson, and all of our MOT team, because you guys were busy and it shows, and thank you. So that's it tonight.
Okay, no worries. Happy to go next. So mine's pretty quick. Most of it's been said. It is it's like a milestone to come back to school. So here we are. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for our student rep to start coming to our meetings. My one child is now at the middle school, which she calls the medium school. She says that her trajectory is medium school, high school, college, and then unicorn rider. So we're gonna have to talk to the academic counselors about what that is. But having my child at the middle school has been incredible. I loved her at Forest Grove, and going to the middle school can bring up certain emotions, but I wanted to thank the middle school team. I don't know how we got so lucky that both of you are here tonight in person. I know, yeah, that's really cool. Okay, thanks. So Mr. Sean Roach and Mr. Jason Tavani are here tonight, and the level of care is really palpable. Thank you. My mom, I'm just going to tell personal stories tonight. So my mom walked with us to school. So we call her Grammy, and she was like, I like these principals. They're out here, and you guys are always out there. So that's huge. And Nurse Katrina organizing a healthcare protocol meeting for my student to make sure that my special student is going to be safe and healthy at school. That type of meeting is available to any student. It's not special treatment for my kid, but the way that Nurse Katrina takes our special kids so seriously is unbelievable. I just thank you so much. You organized a meeting with, I think, 18 people the day before school started, and they all took the information so seriously. So as a parent, I have zero reservations. I have full trust in the middle school, the medium school. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I was really proud of PGUSD this whole week because of my own personal experience as a parent. So thank you.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and I'm excited to be here. Congratulations to everybody on the first days of school. My comment is going to be a little bit emotional. I can already feel it coming. So, I wear a button tonight. I'm going to talk about fentanyl. I might not be able to. This is Jude. Jude was my friend Bart's son. He was born at Chomp. He grew up in the Monterey Peninsula. He was a beautiful young man, kind-hearted, had a smile that could light up a room. Everyone that knew him loved him, and thank you. Whoever did that. After he graduated, he went on to MPC, like a lot of our students do, for 2 years, and then he transferred to UC Santa Barbara. He was majoring in quantum physics. He was involved in research work with superconducting materials and was pursuing a doctorate degree in quantum materials. He was a perfect balance of brilliant and funny. In 2023, Jude went to a party, and at that party, he was unintentionally exposed to fentanyl. He died that night, and my friend lost his son. And this world lost a really bright light. And now I share this with you tonight because the school year started, and fentanyl is real, and it's here. It's in our community. And it's the responsibility of us, but also of all parents to talk to your kids. Talk to your kids now. We should be talking to them about the substance use. We need to talk to them about the dangers of fentanyl. It poses a serious risk to our kids. It's found in a lot of common substances. It's found in pills. It's found in vapes. It's found in marijuana. It's appearing as candy. This is the third person I know that's lost their child. I personally know that has lost their child to fentanyl. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this at the dais, so I'm going to say it. They went to a party and they hit a joint they took a puff of a joint from somebody that they thought that they could trust, and they happened to take the wrong hit. It just was that point in the joint, that a moment of time, and it is a permanent decision. And people lost their kids, people lost their siblings, friends lost their best friend. So things are kind of scary right now for our kids in this community. I don't want it to sound like it's dire, but we have to understand that even though we're in a small town, it's real. And parties are starting. And I'm not trying to create paranoia, but we should be talking to our kids before they go to middle school. If you have a child that's in middle school, please talk to your child now about drugs. Talk to your child about fentanyl, about opioids, about Narcan. If you have a high school student, talk to them, sit down. There are resources of how you can start the conversation. It doesn't have to be difficult. It just has to be an information delivery. Let them know that if something happens and they administer Narcan, they will not get in trouble. It is okay to do. You can't hurt anybody by doing it. Educate yourself about it. Parents, please. There are plenty of resources. Prescribe Safe with Montage Health has a ton of resources. Hopefully we can get that up on the website. That's super accessible about just how to have the conversation. Just don't wait, please. And I guess that's all I have. So thank you for hearing me. And if there is a parent out there that this is listening and receives this information, please talk to your friends. Just get the word out that we need to take care of our kids, because it could be anybody and it is unintentional. And these kids weren't addicts. They weren't, in trouble. They were just trying to have a good time, and it took a wrong turn. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing that too. I know that was really hard. Thank you for doing that. When we come back at the end too about future agenda items, is if I forget to, it's like, I know we've touched on Narcan distribution in the past. I'd like to just bring it up again, and we could get like a primer on that. It's like, I know it lives in the glove compartment of my car. And it should be in everybody's home and everybody's glove compartment, and and wherever you can have it. But thank you again for sharing that. I know that was really hard. Appreciate that. Moving on to our superintendent's report.
So sorry, and thank you for sharing that, Trustee Mara. That's heartbreaking, and it touches home, right? Very close to home for all of us, I think. Well, yes, thank you. It's good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to really be presenting a little bit this evening, and I've chosen to use my superintendent's report tonight to share a little bit of some of the information that is going to actually be coming out in a future communication to our entire community. Some of it I've shared at our welcome back breakfast that we had last week. But I think before I say any of that, I just want to share how excited I am to be starting out the year with all of you as your superintendent. It was, starting in November of last year, everything's going, right? Already I kind of shared with the staff at the welcome back breakfast last week that it was more like I had to sort of come in and sort of keep up, with all of you. And it's nice to now be able to have had, as a result of so much of the work that we did last year, to really be able to have a role, with the staff to be crafting what this vision is, that we're going to be going in the direction of this year. And so it is my, just absolute honor to be sharing that our theme for this year, it's Culture of We. And so we were were able to really kick that off at our welcome back breakfast and really be able to focus in on our three new core values: belonging, safety, and prosperity. And that really is as a result of so much of the community input sessions that we did last year, engagement from our community, from our students, from our staff, and as a result of a lot of the LCAP work that we did and a lot of the LCAP surveys that we put out there and the gathering of that information. So I just feel so incredibly proud to really be able to be putting this together and sort of messaging it in such a way that really makes it tangible, but makes it very clear to everyone within this community at PGUSD, what our direction is, what we stand for, and what we, hold as important for these incredible students that we serve. And so I would just like to go ahead and share this opening video message. It's about 3 minutes long. And as I said, it's something that's going to be coming out to our community. It'll be also posted to our website. But I'm going to let the message speak for itself, because I truly feel it explains and describes who we are as a district, what we stand for, but more importantly, what we won't stand for and tolerate when it comes to our students and their well-being. So please just sit back and well, a warm hello to our Pacific Grove community. This is Dr. Linda Adamson, your superintendent. It is my pleasure to welcome you, students, staff, and families, to a new school year here at PGUSD. As we prepare to begin the year, I'd like to take this time to share with you an important message that speaks to who we are and what we stand for. I begin my message today with a question. Can people prosper and feel safe if they don't feel like they belong? With this in mind, our leadership team has worked tirelessly with our community to develop, adopt, and commit to PGUSD's new core values: belonging, safety, and prosperity. These values serve as our living commitment to creating a culture of we, where all people feel like they truly belong. A culture of we doesn't mean merely coexisting. It means wrapping our arms around each other, supporting each other, and refusing to tolerate racism, discrimination, bullying, or exclusion of any kind. We fully accept and hold ourselves accountable for the past, and in so doing, we also fully accept and hold ourselves responsible for the future of belonging, safety, and prosperity for all persons. What does this mean? We believe for individuals to feel they belong, they must be welcomed, heard, respected, and included, and their culture, backgrounds, and beliefs celebrated and valued. For individuals to feel safe, we believe they must be assured respect and dignity and be uniformly protected from mental, physical, and emotional harm. And finally, for all individuals to feel they can prosper, we believe they must be assured an environment and culture dedicated to the greatest measure of preparedness for their highest degree of academic, professional, and personal achievement. But we also believe in the power of change. Change can be challenging, and while these core values will not erase any of the harm and hurt that we know some of our students and families have felt in the past, we are confident that they will define a better future for every one of our students. If we courageously embrace these challenges, the rewards will follow. I want to leave you with this final thought. There's a beautiful African term which I first heard used by Bishop Desmond Tutu, Ubuntu. It literally means humanity. I am because of you, and you are because of me. Ubuntu speaks to how we do better when we're connected and trust each other. And trust is a powerful thing. It can bring people, in fact, in some cases, whole nations, together. We're a team in this process, and I believe it has never been more important for all of us to work and come together as we strive to ensure the happiness, safety, and well-being of every one of our students. By uniting and committing to these three core values, belonging, safety, and prosperity, I truly believe we can accomplish anything. I hope you all had a wonderful summer. I'm looking forward to seeing you all on campus. There it is. Well, thank you. And that really is, I think, as I really preface that the showing of that video, it really truly, I feel it, and it is, you know, at this point, it's words, right? And we've put that message out, but I think it's important for us to be able to really come forth and stand strongly and proudly, right, for who we are and how we're going to move forward, right, in this incredible journey that we're all on together, in really ensuring the belonging and safety and prosperity of every one of our students. And it starts with that building of that culture of we, where everyone feels that this is their school, this is their district. And that's with our students, it has to be for our staff, and it has to be for our families and our community members as well. So we're excited about where that's headed. And I think as I look back at the start of this year and these first few days of school, I've been able to see that in action as we saw those, I think it's 1,771 students arriving eager to begin a new year with expectations and anticipation. Our staff and their equal anticipation, you know, of what's to come and the hard work that they'd put in order to be ready for them. And so it's begun, definitely. And so I think, you know, the next question for that is how and what? How are we going to go ahead and accomplish, right, this mighty task that we have ahead of us and that we've this goal that we've established for ourselves? And so really it comes down to our local control and accountability plan, and that you'll hear us referring to very often as our LCAP, and that is essentially our 3-year plan where we've established 4 key goals that are going to drive the direction, drive every one of our decision making. What I love about our commitment to our LCAP for the next 3 years is that, number one, it identifies the priorities that we as a community have developed. Those priorities and those goals were not formed in isolation. They were formed as a result of multiple input sessions with our staff, with our students, with our community. And as a result of that, that's something that we feel incredibly proud of. It's also something that our board has indicated a priority on, that they really want to be able to align their board goals on. We want alignment. We want our strategic plan to really be able to be cohesive so that those 4 goals ultimately drive everything that we do. And so you'll be hearing us really refer to those goals a lot throughout the year as we make decisions. If we look at the next slide, there are 3 just documents I wanted to share with you very quickly. The first is our LCAP summary. And what we did is, as a staff, put together a 2-page summary of the goals. It starts with our mission, right? Because that's a strong reminder for us that really our mission states exactly what has just been shared in that video of who we are, what drives us, why we exist. And ultimately, that always ties back to the students that we serve. So that mission, I think, is a critical piece that we start out with. And then right below that, you see our core values. The core values really, again, our belonging, safety, and prosperity tie in with every one of our 4 goals. The goals that were on that first page, of course, Director Algazi has already jumped to the next one, but really when you look at the summary of what those goals stand for, you'll see that each one has a specific focus. Goal 1 is specific to our belonging and prosperity. It's our academic program, and that really speaks to how are we going to ensure the growth, the acceleration, the ability for us to fill in and close gaps for our students of need. And we do that through that whole component of our belonging and prosperity, those 2 core values. Goal 2 is very specific to social and emotional learning, because we understand the importance of the need for us to highlight the ability for us to give that support and allow for our students to succeed. And that's where prosperity, ultimately belonging and safety comes in. Our goal 3 is targeted academic support, and this is specific for our students who are in need of additional intervention. And then our last goal, cultural proficiency. And that goal is something that when we presented the LCAP at the end of last year, we're incredibly proud of, because the work that we did last year with our cultural proficiency plan as a district, but then also at each of our site levels, that this goal ultimately allows us to put into a succinct manner all of that work and the priorities that we identified through that work. And so there you see all 3 of our core values, right? Belonging, safety, and prosperity. So this will be something that's going to live on our website. It'll also be shared in our future communication as well. Why? Because of that importance, that reminder of everything is going to be relating back and aligned to our LCAP. The second document on there, thank you, Director Algazi, is our core values. And this is really just a 1-pager that helps define exactly what each of those core values means and represents. And I think that's an important piece. And once again, we'll keep that in front of us as we move forward in the direction that we'll be taking this year. And then the last document is really a document that we started working on again last year through our cultural proficiency work. But this was really with a focus on how do we go about restoring and repairing relationships amongst our students, relationships between students and staff that have been harmed. And we really realized that we as a district needed to identify specific protocols that we were going to follow as a staff across school sites, across grade levels, to ensure we have a common language, to ensure that consistency, that when we address incidents, we're addressing them the same way. And so this really gives our staff the ability to be able to know exactly what those expectations are. Our staff has engaged in several trainings. The most recent one was last Friday when we had a full day of professional development specifically focused on restorative justice practices. And really, I'll go into a little bit of a detail of what that entails and why that's so important. But that really ties in with the work that we did to then identify our next steps on how we'll be using those strategies to help repair harm, repair the relationships that we know are often harmed when two students get into any kind of incident where there's conflict or an altercation. And so that really is our ability to ensure that we're empowering our staff with the tools in order to be able to address those incidents effectively. So this too will be something that will be shared through that communication and shared at the site level in particular, because this is something that our staff, when we met with them at the school sites last Friday and really talked through these procedures, they want that ability to ensure that this is being communicated to our families as well. Because when we talk common language, it's critical that we're also getting that support from the home, that there's an understanding and knowledge of those practices and how we're going about, working through those situations. So those are the three. I think the next slide really just is, what I mentioned earlier, why restorative justice. And I think this is important for everyone to understand because it really summarizes a little of the benefits of these strategies and how we're going to be able to see the effects that we're seeking. So I think the first one being that aligns to LCAP goals 2 and 4, right? There's a focus on relationships. It promotes a consistent approach to our response in how we're responding to those situations when they occur with our students. It empowers student voice and builds community, right? And if we're talking about a culture of we and belonging, that's a critical component. And the second one I highlight here is it allows for an increased sense of belonging. And, based on our LCAP survey data, that really came out strong from our students. There was, when you look at it overall, it was a little under, really only 68% of our students across all grade levels indicated that they feel like they belong to their school. And that's way too low. We need to work on that. And that is our students telling us, right, that we've got to make change. And so ultimately, yes, it fosters positive relationships, building that connection we know is needed, empowers student voice, creates a strong sense of ownership, reduces isolation, and builds trust, right? We're talking about that care, that belonging, that's a critical piece. But ultimately, as I said at the bottom, it speaks to that survey data, right, that we've heard directly from our students. And so that's a critical piece. That this is almost at the end of the presentation, but I think really I only share this because restorative practices is going to be one component of our focus for professional development this year. The second will be our focus on student-centered learning, which is we refer to as professional learning communities. So that will be the second piece that our staff will be engaging in throughout the year. And together, that gives us that whole balance of belonging, safety, and prosperity. And so really the last slide, I've used this as a reminder for us to, really what you'll be hearing from us throughout the year is talking about that alignment, bringing everything back to the data that we have, to our LCAP, to our goals, really talking about the why, the what, and the how, right? Ensuring that everything we do is driven through what we have prioritized. And when we talk belonging, safety, and prosperity, it's a critical piece. I remind everyone it impacts everyone in this room, everyone who is on the Zoom right now, everyone within our community, right? We're all a part of this ability for the work that we have to do. And so, yes, I know I'm excited about this. I know our staff is unbelievable. That was very evident in our coming together last week where we had that opportunity to just really talk about this and think about, goals and how, this is going to impact everyone in the work that we do. And so I know I appreciate our board for their commitment and stance behind this and the energy and enthusiasm as well. And it really is, I ended that video with saying really we can, there's nothing, no end to what we can accomplish when we focus our minds on this work. So that is my superintendent's report. I know it went a little long, but I really thank you for the time and the opportunity to share that message.
Oh, very well said. And you know, I think it is a great way to start the year. It's like a very proactive approach and for everybody that's here and tuning in, and for those of you who have friends that maybe are not able to tune in, know that it will be online if they want to see that presentation too. But I think it's a great way to start the year. Great way. So thank you very much. Moving on to our safety update, Assistant Superintendent Josh Jorn.
Thank you, President Swanson. And dovetailing into that, which Dr. Adamson just presented so eloquently, is our safety update for the night. And we're going to talk a bit. I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible, but give you kind of a frame of reference for where we're at this year, what we're looking at for the 24-25 year. Some general safety items. We had a new teacher orientation, which was held on July 31st with our Big 5 safety protocols. Secondly, Director Martinez has applied for a new Narcan supply order, but just to note to those on the call tonight and in the audience, each one of the sites still maintains a Narcan supply from the spring, but we'll be working on sending out messaging on when the sites will have distribution dates in the fall. We've done our van training for our district van drivers. This is associated with a new assembly bill that requires all of our drivers go through training. And then a traffic safety reminder went out in the superintendent's back to school message. It's linked to our website as well on the safety page. The district's rolling out the top 3 district concerns, which were presented in June that came out of the district-wide safety committee recommendation. The number one was the visitor access management system. If you walked into our lobby tonight, you'll see the beta testing that we've been doing here at the district office, and that is for our visitor access management system and badging system, which we're rolling out to all of the school sites here in the fall. The hardware is on site, and we plan to roll those out to the sites very soon with communication to staff and families. And we're still drafting our best practices, but we're anticipating that rolling out to all the sites within the first couple of weeks. Definitely not needed within the first week because all families have been allowed on campus throughout the week to drop off their students, which I know is important to those of us that are parents. The enhanced safety training for staff. Quickly, I'll go through this, but our incident command systems 100 through 300 has been added to the Keenan poll for our staff. The 300 through 800 is an admin training that's also rolling out, and we'll be doing that throughout our year at our management team meetings. The annual campus supervisor training that we partnered with PGUSD on is rolling out, and our 2 campus supervisors. We have a new campus supervisor on top of one that's been with us for some time. We'll go through that training as well annually. The school sites are still maintaining their 10 safety drills per year. That's twice. They're doing the Big 5 drills twice at each campus. We're rolling out the active intruder training curriculum to our student population. Tonight, there is a contract on the agenda with Kimball and Associates to roll out the We Got Your Back grade-specific curriculum training. And that'll be scheduled for staff meetings. We have an asynchronous component as well that will be scheduled this fall as well. So the We Got Your Back component is it's instructing our teachers how to properly talk to students. And then there's a lot of literature associated with that based on grade level appropriateness from cartoon characters all the way through superheroes. It's actually a really neat way to relay that information to our student population. The SB 906, that's our multidisciplinary behavioral threat and risk assessment. Each site will form a level 1 threat assessment team. The teams are multidisciplinary. They consist of a group of administrator, school counselor, certificated classified staff, and school resource officer. The protocol will be provided as a response for immediate and appropriate and immediate to address youth who may pose any serious threat to themselves or others. The district's working to identify and assess threats of potentially harmful behavior and determine response needed to address those potential harmful behavior or threats. The threat assessment interview guidelines and data collection are currently posted on our website. We haven't gone completely live with this because there's a training component. That training is done on September 12th. It's 2 sessions from 8 to 12 and from 1 to 4 p.m. We have San Mateo County Office of Education who developed the Big 5 protocol coming down to train our staff. The site recommended staff that will be trained are counselors, administrators, psychologists, special ed, our school resource officer, mental health therapists, and selected certificated and classified staff. Safety projects, just a quick summary of safety projects to close out the summer and beginning of the school year. We're working tirelessly, Director Algazias, to fully implement the camera systems upgrades throughout our district. We've been improving coverage at the sites, adding additional cameras to kind of the dark areas. And then we plan to have an improved system backend implemented by the summer of 2025. And what that means is the things that we've been talking about related to analytics with our camera systems. So servers and our new DVRs. Director Algazi and I will be working through that this year. And by the summertime, we'll have something to bring to the board as it relates to the analytics associated with the camera systems that we're currently installing. Those of you that have been on the campuses will see the big letters all over the buildings. Also, there's been a lot of signage that's been updated throughout the summer. That's all of our new building signage. It coincides with what came out of our threat and risk assessment through Kimball and Associates to properly identify our buildings, get our signage in place so that emergency responders can properly respond and know where they're going when they're on our campus. To tie into that, we've redone all of the evacuation maps at every single school site. Forest Grove Elementary is being printed and will be rolled out the week of August 12th. That's next week at the site. Robert Down Elementary is being printed the week of August 19th, will be rolled out that following week. The middle school the week thereafter, and then the high school, adult school, and David Avenue preschool and community school will be rolled out. So by the end of August, first part of September, every single campus will have all new evacuation maps posted in each classroom, as well as throughout the campus. And then we'll also have one at the front of the campus as well. So that is the end of my update. Thank you.
Thank you. The campuses do look amazing. It's like the signage. It's not just like it's there. It's like it's there. You roll in, right, and you see it. It's like, oh my God, I know exactly where I am or what building that is. Thank you very much for that. So, moving on to individuals desiring to address the board, since it is a new school year. A quick reminder that all speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and there's a total of 20 minutes on any individual topic. So if you do get cut off by me or somebody else, please take no offense. It's just the way the rules are. And so with that said, opening up to community members willing or interested in addressing the board on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody? We have one online. Mr. Gibbs, let's bring you up first. And then we'll go online. Microphone. Hit the button.
My name is Mike Gibbs. I'm a member of the community. Thank you for your time. It's exciting to have a new year, a new superintendent. I think we'll have 2 new trustees after the election. And I kind of scrapped my comments. Trustee Ottmer caught everybody's attention. Everybody probably knows some family somewhere, a friend that's been in similar circumstances. It's touched our family. Peggy and I, my wife, went to the presentations. I think it was last year. 2 members of Montage Emergency Room, you know who they are, 2 doctors, ER docs, were there. We attended both presentations. Wonderful commitment to this. If you've ever worked in an ER, seen kids come in with drug overdoses, it's a awesomely terrible thing to see, especially if you're a parent or a friend. What I was depressed by, there were very few parents and kids in that auditorium. I don't know how many, I didn't count, but way too few. And so what I was going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to change it up. We have a friend, my wife and I, who wrote a book. Her name is Emily Esfahani Smith. And the book is called The Power of Meaning. The Power of Meaning. She is a Sufi Muslim, escaped from Iran, moved to Canada, moved to the United States. She's become a friend of ours. The book is called The Power of Meaning. And she deals with what's going on today in our environment with our families and our friends. And she has kind of not a formula, but talks about 4 things that lead to meaning. You actually have talked about 3 of them here tonight. One is purpose. One is storytelling, Carolyn Swanson told a story. And the other is belonging. And these things are missing in our communities today. They're missing in our schools. Not your fault. They just are. It's a time of disconnect between kids and families. I can speak from personal experience on this. And so I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to see that connection. I don't know how it is, but there's maybe 3 or 4 of us in the room here tonight speaking from the public, others online. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see these rows of chairs filled with parents and kids excited about programs, academic, sports? I understand we got to have active shooter things. We got to have restorative justice, but let's talk a bit more about academics. Let's get the parents in here to fill this room, volunteering, cleaning up, helping out, being a part of the community. That's real belonging. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me say a few things, and I'm really sorry for the loss of your friend's family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Louis, we lost our person online. Do we have anybody else in the room? All right, please come on up.
Good evening. My name is Lyndon Tarver. I'm the president of the Monterey County Branch NAACP. And I'd like to thank Dr. Adamson and the board for your goals for FY 24-25. They're very ambitious. What a difference a year make. This time last year, we were getting ready to have a press conference to talk about PGUSD's goals or lack of goals when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think we're on the right path. We're here to support you, and please continue your professionalism on the board and the staff, as well as our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We now have somebody online. Maybe. Mason?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, my name is Mel Mason. I'm the co-founder and now retired executive director and clinical director of the Village Project. I'm also a life member of the NAACP, so we'll work very closely with Mr. Tarver, who just spoke. I took my hand down because when I heard that we could only say something or speak to something that wasn't on the agenda. I know the superintendent's report was on the agenda, so I thought, oh, okay, this is not the time for me to speak. But now I see that it can be. We were privileged to see this video, a little bit in advance, and as well as the LCAP results. And I think the one thing that both Mr. Tarver and I felt was, this is about hope. And it's also a product, I think, of an 11-month journey that started with a Black parent having the courage to stand up against anti-Black racism that was exacted against her 3 children. I'm talking about Miss Valerie Anthony. So we can never forget how it was that we got to where we are now. This has been an 11-month journey. It's been dealing with things that I think the school district had never dealt with really before. Anti-Black racism certainly being a big one. But we have been relentless, and there are also staff and faculty who have also been relentless as well in making sure that the school district actually is the kind of school district that that all students will feel comfortable with, feel like they belong to, that parents will feel like they belong to, Black parents especially. So there's that hope. But I got a call from a couple of parents, Black parents, in the last couple of days, and their thinking was, or their question was, is this really real? So when we talk about what this video expressed, what Dr. Adamson expressed, you're talking about having to rebuild trust and faith, which is long gone for a lot of Black parents. And so this video can be helpful in bringing back trust. But you are all going to be held responsible for everything that was in that video and everything that was in the LCAP statement, because those things have to happen. They absolutely have to happen. And lastly, I want to mention Be the Change. Be the Change Incorporated. This is an organization that we've been discussing with the superintendent. Long-term work is needed for systems change, and this is the organization that can do it. Because if we continue to have contracts with different little organizations, that's patchwork, and patchwork only works on quilts. So I just want to, but again, I want to thank the thinking on the part that went into putting together this video. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've never actually heard. And my mic's off, I'm sorry. But the comments are appreciated. Nobody else online? And anybody else in the room for community members? So let's move on to, again, non-agenda items, PGUSD staff comments. Anyone in the room or online, PGUSD staff? Everybody's exhausted already. It's 2 days into the school year, and then it's like, no, I can't say anything. I got nothing. All right. So moving on to consent agenda. We did add a few items. Believe they're online now too, aren't they updated online?
Yeah.
With a few walk-on items that fell under consent. Let's open this up first to any community members' comments on consent. Nobody online? Okay, so with that, board members, any items of concern, comments on consent? We now have items going A through Q. So, and for those of you playing at home, consent, again, it's beginning of the year. It's like most of the consent items are just kind of considered to be routine. Board members are expected to have read through it and asked any questions in advance, but you'll see a lot of these things like personnel report with new hires, exception or acceptance of donations, the ever popular revolving cash report. Those are things that we see come time and time again. So there's nobody online, and it looks like nothing from the board. So looking for a motion to approve consent.
I will move to approve consent.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve consent from trustee Otmar, a second from trustee Carolyn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody disapproving? No. All right, so passes unanimously. Moving on now to action discussion, a contract for services with MC Kimball Incorporated. Assistant Superintendent Josh Jorn, this is yours.
Thank you, President Swanson. So tonight you have in front of you a contract for 4 different items associated with the training that I spoke to at the beginning of the meeting under the safety update. The first item is the We Got Your Back student safety training. That's for 1,800 students within the district. The second item is the active intruder training, which is the asynchronous component, the online component, which gives us 300 licenses. This coincides with our student population, our staff population. And then finally, the multidisciplinary behavioral threat and risk assessment training for all staff. It's asynchronous, again, 1-year license for 300 participants. This is coming from our safety budget, and again, was a recommendation that came out of the safety committee back in June. So with that, I'll open it for any questions.
Thank you. Let's open this up to public comment. Is there anyone online? No. Anybody in the room wishing to speak to this particular item? Seeing no one approaching the podium, let's move it to the board. I have no questions at the moment. Let's move to my right, trustee Dr. Hazen.
Yep, no questions. You've laid it out pretty well, what to expect. So thank you.
Trustee McNary.
Just for my clarification, when I look at the staff report and the info listed there, then we look at the contract on this services and scope of work, like what's described as district safety training to meet legislative requirements is going to be these bullet items. Is that right?
Actually, to meet the Senate bill requirements, the safety training that we're doing internally is through Keenan. So those weren't picked up in the Kimball report, in the Kimball contract. So
Okay.
these are just the other three components that I mentioned before. So all of the ICS training, what we're doing with San Mateo County Office of Education is unrelated.
Okay.
But in addition to this contract.
Okay. I think for me, seeing like district safety training equals and then whatever it is in the contract is just really helpful, just to know like this matches this. But I appreciate the clarification and I'm comfortable with it. Thank you, Josh. Or Assistant Superintendent Jordan. Shoot. Your name on the dais is a mouthful, but every other part of work is not. Sorry.
I just had a question about the 300 licenses. How will that information get disseminated to the rest of staff? Does that cover all staff or is that it covers all of staff? Oh, that's perfect. Then scratch my question.
No comments. Thank you. I'm in support of this.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's everybody. So looking for a motion to move forward with action discussion A, contract for services with MC Kimball Inc.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, a motion from trustee McNary and a second from trustee Carolyn Swanson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? It passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to action discussion B, resolution 1137. Again, Assistant Superintendent Joshua Jorn, this is all yours.
Thank you, President Swanson. Here we are establishing another fund. This is Fund 08. This recommendation came from our auditors at our interim audit, which was performed in the spring of 2024. This will establish a student activity account for our district. Right now, our ASB accounts are ran through ASB Works independently, and they're not interlinked with our Escape financial management system. But the establishment of this fund is important for proper revenue expense tracking purposes, and again, was a recommendation from our auditors. So that's what the resolution tonight is adopting, is the establishment of Fund 08.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's go to public comment. Anyone online? No one? Anybody in the room? No. And my deepest apologies to our student representative because I have not gone to you yet. So I'm so sorry. We try to make that a practice. So going to board member comments. Anything you'd like to say about this one in particular?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Fellow board members, anything?
I had one, I guess, really quick questions. One, how will existing funds be automatically transferred into this?
Yeah, they won't. So we'll actually be primarily, we will be just tracked. The funds will stay tracked in ASB Works. But this is a GASB requirement through our auditors so that so it's not intermingling Escape, our financial management system, and ASB Works. It's just a simple place where we would show expense revenue and ending and beginning fund balance, which we currently don't have a fund.
Got it. And so my other question, I think you will have already basically answered on this, but this will not limit any sort of fundraising.
It will not.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm in support of it. It's creating a new system, it sounds like, and something that's recommended by the auditor. So it feels like a must do.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Carolyn.
A quick question. So we're used to seeing kind of the standard 8 funds. Will this be a night that we'll see on your reports, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So when I do the interim reporting now, we will report out Fund 08, which we have not been doing in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right. I think that's everybody. I do want one question procedural, really. When we go to a vote with our student rep, is it best to include in the all eyes, or is it
first? The student rep vote first, then the rest come after.
Okay, so, all right, so we're looking for a motion on this 86-page resolution, number 1137. I'm going to move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have me making the motion, trustee McNary the second, student representative vote, aye or nay?
Aye.
All right, the remainder of the board, all in favor?
This is a roll call vote. I apologize.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Oh, it's
Mhm.
a resolution, of course.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I'm
Right.
sorry. So, all right, could you do the roll call, please?
President Swanson,
Aye.
Clerk Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
trustee McNary,
Aye.
trustee Otmar.
Aye.
And trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Passes with overwhelming unanimity. So moving on now to action discussion item C, proposed board calendar for the 24-25 school year. Dr. Adamson, this is yours.
It is. And so what you see before you is our proposed dates for January through July of 2025. So we've identified those dates for your approval. On the August through December 2024 calendar, there was just one adjustment that was made, and that was to change the December date to the second Thursday, December 12th. And the reason for that is it conflicts with our CSBA conference, which is going to be December 5th, I believe, through the 7th. So that's a date I'll also be giving and sharing with all of you in our next communications, just to make sure we put that on our calendars. So really up December 12th. And so hopefully that date works with everyone. And then our special board meeting, stayed the same. That would be December 19th.
Okay.
And then the only other date you'll see as a little, wonky would be the January date, and that's January 9th. We're putting for our first meeting. And again, that just, we have our winter break that we wouldn't be in session for the first Thursday. But other than that, everything is pretty routine based on our first and third Thursdays.
Terrific. And with those changes, let's throw that out to the public. Is there anybody online with a comment? No. Do we have anybody in the room, public comment on this particular item? No, let's.
And I apologize. There was one more change that I missed, President Swanson. And that is,
sorry.
Right. Well, then we're going to have 2 regular meetings in December. And so the Thursday, December 19th should be a special board meeting. So we'd like to just propose making that change. Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies.
Going to go back out to the public just because procedurally, nobody online and anybody in the room? No. All right, let's move to student representative thoughts. Any comments on this particular item?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Board? Anyone?
Just making sure. So this month, August, we just have 2 meetings. We have the regular meeting and the special board meeting. So the 8th and the 15th, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have one question. Do we have a date? I didn't see it in here for our communications review to come back to the board.
We do not have that on the
Okay.
agenda, but it needs to be on there. And so I will probably put that on either September or October, but we'll add it to one of those dates. Absolutely. I'm
Okay,
making note of
thank
it
you.
now. Thank you for that reminder.
Dr. Hazen?
Looks good to me.
Okay, looks good to everyone. It sounds like so. Looking for a motion to move forward on action discussion C.
Also move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from trustee Dr. Hazen and a second from trustee McNary. Student representative vote, aye or nay?
Aye.
Right. Remainder of the board, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Now moving on to information discussion, which would be a presentation on our current practices related to cell phone usage. And this would be Dr. Adamson.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you. So as you'll recall, this was a topic that was requested by our board to be added to this month's agenda. And I think for many reasons, but it's definitely a topic of discussion, I think at the local, but even at the state level right now. And so as we, as I talked with our staff and we collaborated, it came down to, we wanted to think about, how do we go about sort of laying the foundation for this discussion? And we thought a really good start with that would be to just start with what are our current policies in place, and when we talk about board policy, I think we're going to take just a moment to review what that is, what our policy, is and what it states. And then to sort of, just examine a little bit of what that looks like at the school sites as well. And so the first slide that, I'm going to just present to you is really just as a summary and a highlight of the language that exists in board policy currently. And so really you'll see that, that's first paragraph just really talks about the guidelines for students in place as far as the use of cell phones, smartwatches, pagers, or other mobile communication devices. that they, are permissible during non-instructional time, as long as the device is utilized in accordance with law and any rules that individual school sites may impose. And when you talk about the rules that individual school sites would impose, that really speaks to the handbooks, that it is the school site responsibility to really identify what those guidelines are, what the expectations are for their students. That's communicated to families. And in many cases, well, in all cases, there are also then sort of, accountability, components that are written into that. So there may be sort of a warning, a second warning for students who are not in compliance with what those expectations are. And so, again, this is Board Policy 5131.8. So that's one of the paragraphs that stand out. So that's our current practice. So we do allow cell phone usage, during lunchtime, non-instructional time, according to current policy. And the second paragraph, which is also very clear, it talks about mobile communication devices shall be turned off during instructional time. However, and this is where it sort of gives, a caveat as to, some exceptions to that. A student shall not be prohibited from possessing or using a mobile communication device under any of the following circumstances. And therefore, that are specifically mentioned. The first one being an emergency response to danger, that, students should be able to have that in the event there were to be a reason for them to, use it. If teacher or administrator permission is granted. So I think that, really gives that leeway a little for, different circumstances that, it may be needed in the classroom for health or medical reasons. An example that comes to mind for me as a student who may be a diabetic, very often there's now an app on their phones that, just helps them monitor their blood sugar. And then it may be required by the student's IEP or 504 plan. So those are some exceptions that are built in, and that's according to Ed Code. So that is something that we, as administration are required to, give access to our students for. So that's the board policy itself. And I think that's important for us to establish, what do we have in place currently? The thing that we realize that, we don't have in place is an administrative regulation policy. So we're going to talk about that a little later in the presentation. So that's district board policy. So what we thought we'd then look at next is look at our sites and really, examine a little bit of what the practices are that are in place and how our sites are really, following through on that policy and, how does it play out on a daily basis. So looking at elementary and middle schools, and just to add to this, this is something that we as a cabinet team, we met with all of our site administrators to really kind of delve into this and have some really, great conversations, about the topic. And again, I look over at the back of the room and look to our administrators and just grateful for, just there's a lot of, they place a big priority on this, but there's definitely, they see the importance of really our ability, to be able to not only, have the discussion about it, but look at, how those practices are that they're following at their school site. So again, just thank you to all of you for that. So at the middle and elementary schools, what we're looking at is there are consistent practices in place that actually do reflect current board policy. So, cell phones, it's very clear, and also in the language that they have embedded in their handbooks, it's very clear that, and, talking to our administrators, that is being followed by our staff. I think this at the beginning of the year, it's a great opportunity for them, and they've expressed that to really, review that with the students, review that with staff, and review that with families as well. Cell phone usage is prohibited throughout the day, actually, at the middle and elementary schools. And I think, really one of the reasons for that is, because it's a little easier, for sure at the elementary level for definitely, because, I'm going to, hesitate a guess that very few students have, cell phones. I hope, especially in the younger levels. I think it's definitely just easier to enforce students are in. Well, I'm seeing a shaking of the head that maybe that's not the case. So sadly, but, I think it's also easier just in the makeup of the day, right? Students are, typically in one class. They're not changing periods throughout the day. But ultimately, yes, at the elementary and middle school, it's definitely not even allowed at lunchtime. And so, all of those school sites have protocols in place that allow for staff to be able to monitor that and enforce it. So that includes lunch and nutritional breaks before and after school. And, I think the piece that I wanted to add here is that these are practices that have been in place for many years. And so you talk about, culture right at the school site. So I think, that's been an expectation that, the staff has had of students, families have known coming in that, okay, it's elementary, it's middle school. This is just, what's in place, and we're, going to go ahead and conform to that. And so, it really is sort of business as usual is how I see it, with those two grade levels. And so that will lead us then into the high school, element of this. So a little different at the high school, but again, what we're seeing when we looked into the language and we looked into practices, that our high school is also in compliance with what current board policy states. So first of all, I think the handbook really supports practices that are reflected by that policy. I was able to go through the language with Mr. O'Meara, and we're able to actually see that, yes, there are also, even there, just sort of guidelines, there are, warnings and, components in place to ensure accountability. And so, students know what the expectation is and what what will occur in an event that they're, not following through what those expectations are. Just a few sub bullets there. I think what's important to know is that yes, the use of cell phones is actually permitted during instructional time with staff permission, and again, that is what is stated in in the board policy. So in classes where you're seeing the next bullet talks about, while some classrooms prohibit cell phone usage during instructional time, others do allow it. So again, even though there's, maybe not, it's maybe different, expectations in some of the classes, it's still within accordance to what the board policy states. And yeah, that's really that, that last, item is that it really does. Yes, they are allowed, to utilize them during lunch and nutritional breaks. I think the added little challenge at the high school is that that juniors and seniors are permitted to go off campus during lunchtime. And so, for that purpose as well, many of them, I think there's a comfort level as well for families that, they've got their phones with them. And again, like I did at the elementary and middle school, we talked about, culture. And I think what's important for us to know is we're looking at, what these practices are, that's also been part of the embedded culture over the years. So what I really thought it would be appropriate is, we have our new principal in place. So he's unbelievably, just enthused and excited about, taking on this week. But, even my conversations, I think, with him on this topic, it's very clear that this is something he's very passionate about. We're in a fortunate situation where he's also coming from a high school where, they had very, I think, clear and consistent practices in place. And so, he's got a lot of that experience, number one, on how he, came about, I think, enabling that and bringing that about with the staff. But I also want to just, remind, as a board, that as a new principal coming in, I think one of the most important pieces is, for him to be able to lead through any kind of change, that may, come about, and really do that from an engagement perspective. Bless you. And, just ensuring that there's the voice that's really being, brought in from the students, from staff, and from the community. So I'm going to go ahead and let him speak to, what his vision is of how we're going to go about doing this. And it's our pleasure to have you here tonight, Mr. O'Meara.
Well, there we go. Last time I was here, I was able to lead the Pledge of Allegiance and then scuttle out the door and go to dinner with my family. And now I'm here talking about cell phones. So I'm very, very excited to be here. Thank you, Dr. Adamson. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you, Mr. Powery. Thank you, Board of Trustees. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge just how important this issue really is. As technology naturally progresses, the technology of electronic devices, especially cell phones, the technology advances and remains a very big part of our society, and of course, our schools, which are a smaller part of our society. I've had the privilege of serving as a principal at the elementary, at the middle, and at the high school levels. And I can say without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is an ongoing conversation at each level. And in the coming weeks, there will be numerous opportunities for myself and for my team to facilitate discussions around the issue of developing a more uniform approach to board policy implementation at the high school level, both at Pacific Grove High School and Community High School. Upcoming site level cabinet meetings, faculty meetings, site leadership meetings, PTA meetings, those are all scheduled and on the books and will certainly include the topic of consistent policy implementation around electronic devices and especially our cell phone use. I'm also very excited to continue the conversation and garner student input through the soon-to-be established Principals Advisory Committee at Pacific Grove High School. This group will consist of established elected student leaders. Mr. Powley will receive his invitation soon, and along with ad hoc representation from each grade level. So I've relied on my Principals Advisory Committee in the past to give me a pulse of the school and a pulse of the community. And I look forward to bringing this topic to our advisory committee once it's established in the next couple of weeks. And just in short, I look forward to continuing the discussion. Again, it's definitely nothing new to education, to our schools, and to our educational leadership. Our responsibilities as leaders is to carry on a diligent conversation around this topic. So I look forward to that, and I will look forward to reporting back in a few weeks with more information after I've had the opportunity to facilitate these conversations with my stakeholders. So with that, I'll hand it back to Dr. Adamson.
Thank you, Ms. Romero. I appreciate that. So I think the only other component that we want to be able to share, with you this evening really speaks to what, I mentioned at the beginning is a component that's missing from the policy is the administrative, regulation. And we really see this as an opportunity to sort of put into place some of that language. And again, that's going to be a collaborative, approach as well, including staff. But this is a component that Assistant Superintendent John has taken the lead on. And so I'm going to ask him to speak to what that's going to look like.
Thank you, Dr. Adamson. Yeah, so like any one of our board policies, we really need a good administrative regulation to back the policy. That's kind of our outline and guidebook, play-by-play, so to speak, as what our administrators are supposed to be doing as it relates to adherence to the policy. So we did draft an administrative regulation. That AR will go through our normal board policy committee process for review and amendment prior to it coming to our board for review and approval, having a first read, then review and approval. But I think that the key takeaway is that we're going to embed in that specific areas of focus at each school site. Like what are our school sites currently doing? What best practices can we build in to that administrative regulation? And a lot of it needs to come from, as Principal Amira mentioned, hearing from our student body prior to bringing an administrative regulation forward. We do have a draft version that's ready, but we still need to vet that through our sites as well. So.
Thank you, Assistant Super John. So really, I think the closing thoughts on this, and as we, then open it up for discussion for you as the board, I think my highlights for me is really approaching this as a, from a measured and thoughtful approach to really, to what Ms. Romero said, bringing about sort of more of a uniform approach, to how it's particularly at the high school level and, how we're carrying out the practices. And ultimately, right, our goal of creating a distraction-free classroom environment. I do want to just mention that very much of this approach we're doing is in alignment with many of our local districts. And again, this is going to be a great opportunity for us to sort of engage with other leaders at other districts to really get a sense and, really, I think, not create the wheel with this, right, but work together, in how we're going about approaching it. We're very much aware that there's state legislation at this time that, has been presented by our governor. And so, there's more that's going to be coming down from the state level, in that regard. I know there's been talk a little about LAUSD. They recently came out with their board and put together a policy. But what's interesting about that is our own attorney, Lulazano, his firm actually helped them, craft that policy. And it's very clear what he shared with us is that, that's really just for during instructional time. They're not looking at doing away with cell phones completely throughout the day. So again, I think, our approach with it, even with our current, policy, we were almost ahead, of that in a sense, based on what other districts are trying to do. So I share that that's important information, I think, for all of you to have as you're, thinking about and having your discussions. So I just want to open it up to discussion and questions about, what's next.
All right, thank you. The presentation so far led, we do need to go out to the public first. So do we have anybody online? We have nobody online. Do we have any members in the public that would like to comment upon this? Seeing no one, I would love to know first, our student representative, what your thoughts are. What are you seeing out there? And
so I definitely say that I see a lot of cell phone use in class, and not just cell phones, but also like earbuds, like listening to music, and like generally just having that was like distracting. And because you're tuning out the teacher and you're not really listening to what's happening in class and paying attention. So I definitely think that phones should not be allowed like during class, but I'm okay with like them having it outside of class if you need to communicate with your parents, or like if you need to look at like something on the Instagram that was posted for upcoming events. Like I definitely think that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Start down on the end with trustee Carolyn.
Well, in light of this being an info discussion item tonight, I know that we're not going to vote on anything. I think staff did an incredibly thorough job in telling us your plan for reaching out to the relevant parties, which I appreciate because that was going to be my question. I don't feel we can make a policy for this or a supporting AR without reaching out. So great, that's great. Principal O'Meara wants to do that. I'm assuming the AR will include direction for elementary, medium, and high school. So got that covered. So yeah, I say if staff has time to take this on, which it sounds like you all are saying you do, go for it. And I look forward to it coming back as an action item. I look forward to it coming to the policy committee first. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Trustee Otmar.
Thank you. My question would be, and I guess maybe it's not going to be answered tonight, but one of the questions I have is what type of information we're seeking from the students, especially at the high school. That's kind of a double-edged sword because I could see how a high school student would not want their cell phone taken away. I mean, we're all addicted to our screens in some form or another. I'm always surprised when it says you've been on your screen for 2 hours in a day. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what it says. So I could see how a high school student might want to continue to use their cell phone. So my question is, what type of information are we looking to gather and how accurate will it be as far as what's going to fit with policy? That's it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee McNair. Oh,
I can
sorry.
answer the question, yes. And I may have, Principal O'Meara come up and add to it as well, but, I think you'll be surprised, right? And I think William right now has already kind of shared a little bit of a version of, I think what we're going to probably hear from the majority of the students for during instruction time. I think in my, I've had some conversations with students already, just in a very, sort of organic and informal way, but I was surprised by really there is sort of a sense from them. I think they are seeking for this, something in class to really be able to just, focus, right? I think if we were to say, okay, we're taking it away completely, for lunch and recess, that may be, something that they feel a bit more strongly on. But I think without an original focus of just looking at the instructional time, I think we're going to be surprised. As far as the specific questions, I'd love to ask, Mr. O'Meara, what that would be and what that would look like. But I think regardless of it, it really is, that opportunity to at least know when we're making the decision, okay, this is where they're coming from. And it gives that opportunity to maybe sort of give background and sort of a rationale, to them as to, why we're maybe having to go a certain direction as well. But Mr. O'Meara, anything you want to add?
Can I add one quick thing too? I'm also wondering about passing time, that 5-minute passing period, and questioning, how much bullying is being done via text message or via whatever it is, Instagram or whatever people are on. I don't know what people are on now because it keeps changing. But in the passing periods, I'm interested in what's happening there too. I understand that we can't necessarily take a cell phone away maybe during lunch because of off-campus privileges. But that definitely, for me, plays into the equation. Kids talk and, bullying has been on the radar forever and it's a lot easier with technology now. So I'm just kind of wondering about that as well.
Yeah, it's excellent question. And I think what we heard tonight was a pretty respectful and insightful response when we just threw out the general question outlined. Mr. Pally gave a pretty from the heart response, right? Without much preparation. And I think the beauty of just talking to different groups, we'll throw out that general question and specifics will percolate. Okay. I'm super confident in that. And that's one thing, one reason I'm really excited about the Principals Advisory Committee, because it will be a cross section of our students. That's the whole idea, is to have a cross section of different students from different areas of the campus, the sports folks, the science folks, the math folks, the literature folks, and just it's amazing what conversations will transpire. And so those conversations and highlights from those are what I'll bring back.
All right, thank you. Did you get your questions all addressed? All right. Trustee McNary.
Thank you. I really appreciate this approach. It feels thoughtful and engaging with the community and the students and the staff before we make decisions is best approach, in my opinion. So thank you. And I just look forward to the updates and seeing how this progresses. And I like how Mr. O'Meara framed it as an ongoing conversation, because it really is. Like, what works today may not work next year, or who else knows when. So thank you for being open. One question I did have about cell phone use, and I guess I don't need it answered tonight, but how it interplays with the See Something, Say Something app we just approved as kind of a reporting system for students. And I'm just curious how existing policy and implementation of that will work with the ability to report something possibly throughout the school day or other times. Yeah. So I don't need the answer right now, but it was just a question that I kind of had swirling in my head, because for the most part, after going to 2 middle school orientations and listening to Mr. Tavani say, like, kids are getting on average 130 notifications in a day, and like how many interruptions that would be just on an average day, it's a lot. But I want us to be able to use the tool that we just we approved. So just looking forward to hearing about that next time when we get an update too.
It'll definitely be a consideration, something we've already had discussions on, so we'll be sure we share that out as well when we do. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, I'll start with apologizing to Principal O'Meara for putting you on the spot so quickly here with this item. But again, thank you, and thank you to district staff for putting together the proposal and the presentation so quickly. I love the conversations. Part of the reason that, when President Swanson brought it up at the last board meeting, I really wanted to echo it, is I want input. I wanted people to tell me, hey, this is a bad idea. I want that, or this is a good idea. And I have pretty much unanimously, when I'm talking to different segments, heard support for more control over devices than less. And so I just bring that up again, because I think it is something, there's a lot of science coming out and, on the harm that it causes. And we can't control kids out of school. We can make suggestions, but I feel that when kids are in our district, we need to do what makes them safest to the best of our abilities. So I will say, the elementary, middle schools, they set the standard. That is what I do feel we should be doing. And being honest, I had my daughter text me once from, lunch, where she ran to her backpack to send me a message about how she wasn't feeling well, right? And I think that is not necessarily a full violation of the rules. I think that is getting into the health and safety. And I think that same sort of thing should be considered at the high school as well. But I'm happy to hear the approach to AR, but should we be revisiting the board policy first as a policy committee to decide? I think we might want more strong adherence to what the elementary and middle schools are doing. So I would love your thoughts on that, or maybe as a board, whether we feel the AR now is the time, or if it's more important to make sure our board policy is fully in line with what we're thinking. And then the last thing I was just going to say is, I do thank you for student trustee Powley for coming up with your, honest thoughts and opinions here. And I really put on parents that are here and community members, please do go out and come back. To see something, say something is a really important point that was brought up, and we need to, keep that in mind. But if we're hearing by and large that this is a good thing to do, I want us to figure out how best we can do it. And again, I think Principal Mira's plan is the right way to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, when this first got brought up, and I think most everybody saw the same articles that I saw, where it's just like, we're going to just get rid of phones at schools and kids are going to be talking to each other right away and everything's going to be perfect. And I was, it's like, yes, absolutely, let's do it. Let's just lock them up, and then it gets complicated. People start talking about, well, what if there is an emergency, right? And it's like, well, it's that. And then last week, my daughter texted me. She's 22, but she sends me a text from where she is in Colorado. It's like, Dad, we're on a lockdown right now. There's a shooter within 2 blocks from where we are, and we were told to put our shades down and barricade the door. And it's like, oh, well, that was really close to home, and it does change your perspective, because I was thinking, it's like, well, that's it's like, people are saying, well, what if there's a shooter? And then it's like, well, what are the odds? And then your daughter sends you a text and there is. So it's a discussion, and I'm glad that we're having it, and community input, all the stakeholders' input is vital to the conversation. I'm glad that we amped it up, but that we moved it up in the timeline. I want to keep having that conversation. I do think we could be a little bit tighter in some ways. I know it's difficult for our staff or our teachers, though, too, because it's like they want to be teaching. They don't necessarily want to be enforcing cell phone policies and dealing with that. And there's, and it's not just a cell phone either, right? It's a watch, it's a whatever, it's a bud in your ear, it's like, it's all that stuff. So it's complicated, but I think first and foremost, we get as much input that we can. And we keep in mind, again, what are the things that we're really trying to do here? One is to keep the kids focused on learning, but also, to make it so that they are able to interact with each other and they're just not looking at TikTok or whatever the next thing is that comes along. But it's not instant. We're not going to figure it out that fast. And so the more we can talk about it and reach out to the community about it, the better. So let's keep the conversation going. I guess it is a public health. I think it really is. It's a public health. It's not just for our students, but it's public health and mental health crisis that comes from all of this stuff. And we'll all be the better for addressing it and trying to figure out how we do better for each other, for our students. So that's all I got. Trustee Carolyn.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Something popped in my mind when we're doing our outreach. I'm remembering that at our last CSBA conference, there was a district, and I think it was Beverly Hills Unified. And they talked about how a couple years ago they had implemented this and they did sing its praises. But I was thinking they might be great to reach out to, because a lot of people are coming on the bandwagon now like us, but they may have had the benefit of fleshing out kind of the rough edges. And then I've heard that PGUSD used to use, so you can verify maybe with PK, but that they used to use the Yonder pouches, but it's possible they don't anymore or something. So there could be some benefit to finding that out before we order a truckload of something and then have regrets.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I've reached out and have not heard back yet from any of the other board presidents in the area about what they're doing. I hope that they respond soon, but I think we could all do that too. It's like we should all, if we know people, and everybody here too, it's like, what are the other districts doing, and to see what's worked and what hasn't. It's going to take all of our input to try to figure it out.
And one just quick thing on that. I know the Monterey Yonder system, from my discussions at least, was implemented at one of the sites that was then shut down. So I think it was like a pilot program to be used. And then unfortunately, I don't know if they came up with it, but that would be a good thing to follow up on with people.
Yeah, and if they're not using them, maybe we can buy them.
I wonder, and it's like thinking out loud here too. It's like, you have this policy, right? It's like, maybe it isn't. I mean, and then this is, again, just one of the things that we could talk about. Maybe it's not something where it's like when you come on campus that, your phone goes into a Yonder pouch. But what if instead it's like, if you're found violating the policy, here's your Yonder pouch. we'll see you at the end of the day. A way where it's just easier, again, and I'm not gonna make up the rules, I'm just thinking out loud here, but about how it could be done maybe a little bit differently. Cause the whole yonder thing too, and in some ways I thought it was fantastic, but boy, that's like a nightmare at the beginning and the end of the school as you try to deal with everybody as they come in. I wouldn't want to be a teacher or part of admin trying to deal with that thing too. So anyway, part of the discussion.
We have a superintendent's council as well, where, our county superintendent, Dr. Dominguez, we all come together as superintendents. And I know that this is going to be a topic at one of our very near agendas and meetings. So it'll give an opportunity with everyone in the room to have that discussion as well. So we will be finding out more and sharing that out as well.
Right. I do want to just bounce back one more time since we have had this discussion. Is there anything additional from our student rep as we've kind of bounced around on this? Any other thoughts on this right now? Okay, all right. Talk to your classmates, please. See what they think. Appreciate that. And so I guess that's it on this particular item. We already went out to public comment and board comment, and it's information discussion. So we can now. Did you have a comment? Oh, okay. All right, let's now, well, you're up next. So we'll go on to item B here, presentation of summer projects, slideshow with Director John Anderson.
Good evening, everybody. Wait till he brings it up here. So almost a year ago to the day, I came and reported to you after my first summer of projects. And that summer we did pretty close to about $4.5 million worth of projects. And we did a lot of roofs, a lot of exterior painting. And I remember it was all focused on building envelope. And this year, again, we focused on building envelope as that's the direction. But for the first time, we're starting to press to the interiors. And so I kind of have some really good news to report on the PAC. And so I made that my front cover because, now that the building envelope's starting to get repaired, moving indoors, if you remember, we had a leaky ceiling at the PAC and we had water intrusion on one of the exterior walls, that famous little floor cave in, just behind the curtains. It wasn't Oz. So I kind of wanted to highlight this because I'm trying to bring a jewel back to the community. And we talked about community. And so I want to make the PAC something that we're proud of again. I want to see the high school performances move to there, hopefully. And I want to give the public that wonderful place back where we could have performances. And just, again, it's a jewel in the rough, and I want to start shining it up. So the very front of the stage, we call that the proscenium. And while I wasn't able to do the entire interior of the PAC, I felt it important to do the proscenium. So what we have done here is since we fixed the roof leak last year and we fixed the water intrusion, I upgraded the painting. The painting was seriously, probably 1970s earth tones, probably not the original colors in there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything but black and white pictures, and that doesn't tell you color. So I went back to a color that I thought was probably as close to I could assume the original would be. Also, there was the empty tombstones, if you'll call them, above the stage. I decided those would look a little better with some gingerbread in there. So we had some plantons put up there, give it a little spark. The dull brown color in all the filigree work up here where the old speakers used to be located is now a beautiful color with a kind of a blue wash with gold over it. So it mimics the color that's also in all the scroll work there. We have new curtains now, which is a fire, life, and health safety issue because they are NFPA rated and they have a timeline. And so those are now fully fireproof curtains. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. The photograph does not do it justice. Also, there was an idea, I guess, pushed forward about 4 or 5 years ago about sanding the floor down and doing it a blonde color with a nice shiny like gym floor appearance, which is by theater standards the absolute wrong thing to do. What needs to happen on a theater stage, they paint them these days a nice flat non-reflective black. So I had the stage floor bondoed, repaired, and painted black. So I really think this is worthy of a field trip for the board and anybody else that can get there. it's gorgeous and it's just going to keep getting better each year. I just had a representative from a contractor up in the Bay Area come down for a visit to talk about lighting and sound. And he was impressed. He was very happy that schools are doing these kind of things today and putting some money towards our arts. And so I'm proud to say that Measure D money is being spent well. And I look forward to the first performance. I can look forward to Barbara's orchestra up there. It's just going to be great. So next slide, please. So what I want to talk about is the summer projects. They're not just Measure D projects. These are also Fund 40 projects and projects done with our in-house staff, projects that teachers have requested, et cetera, et cetera. So we had a lot of work, and I'm trying to think, how do I get $6 million worth of work in a few slides? And so this looks a little bit jumbled. That's because it was a jumbled summer. We achieved a ton. And I think the first thing I need to talk about before I talk about the actual projects is not only our staff, but also our contractors that came up to the plate. We had I put, I think 6 or 7 projects out to bid this year. We had really successful bids. All of my projects except for one came in under budget. So there's always going to be that one, right? And it was only minorly over budget. We were about $3,000 over budget. So I think we're going to be able to save some of that Measure D money because we didn't spend it on the projects as we thought we would. So we're going to turn around and do some like stairs and things like that with those. I look forward to that. Actually, just putting the money right back in the system and keep on going. So we got a beautiful refinished gym floor. The safety issue of tripping over the peeling paint and lines there is no longer an issue. That's going to be a great floor for the next 15, 20 years. It's going to be wonderful. We have all new exterior signage. We have new weatherization thanks to ABM contract. The exterior paint on buildings A, B, and F. And I think it's important to note that we didn't paint above a certain line because we're going to be doing the roof work next year, and that includes wood rot. So I wanted to get paint on the building this year because the peeling paint was just looking horrible. And again, it's the importance of keeping our building envelope safe and secure, keep the moisture out of the building so we don't have mold and wood rot and all those kind of things. So we're just moving on with those priorities. There was some pretty significant wood rot repairs done on building F, and that looks wonderful now. You can't even tell we were there. So again, the new PAC curtains, the paint upgrade to the proscenium, repair and paint to the PAC stage floor. We had some really bad landscaping between the back side of the school and the track area. And we have a new employee now. We tried him out as a substitute during the summer after we lost some of our staff. And he just did a wonderful job of taking that over. And that was kind of our test project for him. And he passed with flying colors. He's now an employee. Due to consent this night, you actually got him on board. So I'm happy. We did lose about 1/6 of our staff due to attrition and retirement. And so we're looking forward to getting those refilled soon. Again, because due to ABM, we have new toilets. The parking lot at the middle school was absolutely the worst parking lot in the district. We were able to slide that in this summer. It looks beautiful now. We also were able to gain 1 parking stall there, and we now have a legal ADA parking stall there. The one before was not quite up to par. So that's good news all around. And we also, for safety and security, we have new bollards that even though they were ordered months ago, they arrived last Friday and were installed this week, but they're there today. Next slide, please. And so there was some work that we couldn't quite finish in the 2 months we had. It's been a 3-month process to get bathroom stalls. They are now ordered and hopefully will be shipped soon. So as soon as they get here, we'll be putting them in. There's a new, I'm trying to get a contract together right now for putting a new fence and gate in this area between these 2 buildings. That is one that's just too short, and we're going to bring that up to code and make it right. So more work going on at the middle school. Next slide, please. Pacific Grove High School, lots of work going on there. So again, the exterior paint on buildings E, G, and H. G and H together, those 2 buildings make up the library. New roof coatings on the same buildings, new gutters on E and H. Building G doesn't have gutters. It's an internal gutter system there. So it's not that we skipped them. They don't exist. New weatherization, new toilets. We did major pool maintenance. We now have all working lights underwater. We installed an ice machine that was ordered like 3 years ago. We finally got it in over at Culinary. We built a wall in the robotics room. That was another in-house project. There was a modular building that, remember I said we would take care of with just basically because we were saving money on our contracts. It's gone. It's been an eyesore for the last 6 years. Now it's just nice, even dirt, and you could actually see through to the pool. It's a beautiful area. And I think we'd probably like to do something with that area, make it kind of an area where the students can gather. So that might be a future project there. And then we had this really big, huge, humongous stump out on Sunset Avenue that's been an eyesore since I've been here, probably been an eyesore for years. It's gone today. So that's good news. Next slide, please. So future work at the high school. We have the gym floor, which is due to open on the 13th. It requires a 5-day curing period, and they just put the last coat on Monday. We have the new basketball backboards we're going to be putting in. The ones that actually set on the ground are not that desirable. We'd like to go back to the ones that are getting wall mount. I'm expecting a quote on those tomorrow, so work continues. The evacuation maps are in process, as Josh had mentioned. Again, bathroom partition urinal dividers for buildings C and F. And we finally found someone that could repair the stadium chairlift. It was quite a hunt, but we have an authorized person to repair that and a contract in place. That contract was put in place back in June, and it's a 12-month delivery for the parts. 12-week delivery for the parts. So we should be starting on that soon. And we're starting to paint the pickleball courts, which is going to be fun. Next slide, please. Forest Grove. Now all the original buildings, so that would be A, B, C, D, G, and part of K. Those are the original buildings. They all have new furnaces. Now that we completed the roofs on those and the painting on those, all the original buildings on that campus are now roofed and painted. So the envelopes are enclosed. They all have new gutters. We got new furnaces. So those commitments that I was trying to make about getting the building envelopes and the air quality taken care of, this is the first full success story. And the good news is I've been monitoring the systems there since the completion. They've been running now for about 3 weeks, and it's near perfection. It's such a happy day that the teachers can go in, all those original buildings, they can close the windows and doors, they can run the system. It's going to be operating with the proper amount of air exchanges, outdoor air mixed in with the heating, and the systems are going to work, and they're going to run, and they're going to turn off when they're not needed, and we're going to save tons of energy, and the kids are going to be comfortable. So very excited about that. And again, new toilets and weatherization there because of the ABM contract. Okay. So what's still pending after school starts? HVAC units for the modular buildings. So what we did find out is ABM, thanks to their expertise, we're able to locate what we call the wall pack units that actually mix outdoor air. I looked for months and couldn't find one that actually did it. So again, that's the benefit of hiring experts. New swing set. So again, I wanted to get them in the summer. I just couldn't get my hands on some. It turns out now, came about July 1st, that now swing sets need DSA approval. So I wasn't able to swing the swing sets, if you will. So I'll be going through with the proper paperwork to make sure that's done right. And then here's a sample of one of the evacuation maps. They're beautiful. We're working on redlining them the next couple of weeks and getting them to the printer. Okay, next slide, please. Robert Down Elementary. So if you look in the bottom right corner, you're going to see the slime that has been growing from both the street water from Spruce and the field water from above. It's been going on, to my understanding, for about 17 years. And I decided that was something that we didn't need to put up with. So I brought an engineer out, and he came up with we exchanged ideas and came up with a plan. And as for today, I could happily report that we hear water running down the drain, but there's none on the blacktop. So this means we can go forward next year with actually refinishing the blacktop and it's surfacing the play area, a little bit of regrading to make it ADA compliant. It's going to be beautiful. So baby steps to get where we want to be. It's all a process, just like the PAC. We have to fix things before we can go forward. So that was not a very expensive project, but I think it's going to pay off in dividends. The other good news is the water that goes under the building. We're hoping that will cease too if we cut off the water supply. So we'll be monitoring that to see if it starts to dry out under the building. So hopefully it'll pay off with more benefits than just the blacktop. The west side flooring, again, if you'll look, you'll see in the center, you'll see a picture on the left with the old 1x1 tile floor that it was just cracking and peeling because the substrate moves so much. Kind of a bad decision to put that kind of tile on there because it gets brittle and 100-year-old building moves. So now we have this very flexible luxury vinyl plank flooring on the west wing, and it is gorgeous. It kind of fits with the feel of the building as well because it's that faux wood appearance. It's also a LEED approved project with low VOCs, so it's healthy for our kids. It's not going to be off-gassing. Good stuff. The extreme left, I have one of the new toilets and some of the weather stripping on the doors. Again, that's going to save us a lot of energy, a lot of water. And again, I know that toilets were one of the things that came up that our students were not happy with. So we have new toilets now. Very excited about that. All right. So things that are still going on for the K wing, we have the rooftop units that are going to go in a K wing, and that'll bring those up to par as far as outdoor air. We have the evacuation maps and swing sets on order. I think it's also important to note that both the swing sets I'm ordering they're going to be 4 swing sets each, and I will have an adaptive swing as one of those 4 swings. I'm going to make sure that we have adaptive stuff on all of our playgrounds going forward. Okay. Next slide, please. Pacific Grove Adult Education. We did not as much as I would like to do there. I'm hoping to give them more attention within the coming year. With all the projects we had, there's just a lot of building envelope stuff going on, and we have some decisions to be made there on how we're going to go forward. So there's more in the work. We did spend a lot of money throughout the year and beginning of summer. Again, it's just a property that's full of trees that are very suspect. So we removed another handful of trees. We took out a couple of stumps. Of course, there was new toilets, new weatherization there. We had 2 doors that were very well compromised. We finally special ordered one, and Barbara actually paid for that. Thank you. We're going to be doing more work there in the future, lots more work. I'll just put it that way. All right, next slide. David Avenue campus. The Keenan, our insurance company, has written us up years and years and years for all the old playground equipment there. And last year, finally, a new playground was installed there. So we felt it fitting to finally remove the legacy playground equipment, the old galvanized steel stuff that was an accident. What did it happen? So much safer site now with that playground equipment gone. We put a new epoxy bathroom floor in there for them. They were very happy about that. And then here at the district office, of course, we had our new toilets, our weatherization, and we gathered probably another $30,000 or $40,000 worth of hazardous waste that we'll be disposing. So that's what you see in that lower picture. It's boxes and boxes of hazardous waste, lots of it from the high school, some from the middle school, stuff we gathered from boiler rooms, et cetera. So on its way out, making this place a much safer environment for ourselves and our kids. Last slide. So while I did not quantify the cost of our in-house projects and stuff that we did in Measure 40, I thought it was important to share with you and our public where the Measure D money went. And so in the green are all the projects that were completed this year. And the orange are projects that are either stalled for a reason or if you can actually move the thing. The very last one there is the partitions. And I was so happy to be able to type the word order in there. And then, we have a couple that are not yet completed. And that's all the ones in the kind of the beige color. And again, you'll see there's a total of about almost $7.2 million worth of projects. And we got about 5 million worth of that, almost 6 million done this year. So very, very busy summer. I think in total, 33 projects, 14 different contractors, and I'm exhausted. And I must end again with just thank you to my staff. I am nothing without them. Just the maintenance staff of 4, unbelievable amount of money and dedication. I mean, not money, unbelievable amount of time, dedication, and put into the projects, saving us money is what I'm getting at. Our bus driver and utility staff, they jumped in wherever they could. Our ground staff, again, they were cut short down to 1 guy, and we got a substitute to help for half the summer. They did a phenomenal amount of cleanup with just, a staff of 2. And I really feel bad about what I did to our custodians this year. We basically tore up every campus and then asked them to clean it in short order. So if you see any of these people when you're making your rounds, ladies and gentlemen, please make it a point to tell them thank you. They've earned it. They're great people. And we're very, very lucky to have them. Questions or comments?
Well, let's go out to the public first, as we're supposed to do. Anybody online with comment? Nobody online? Anybody in the room? Public comment on this particular item?
Hi, Beth Shamos. About David Avenue. A question I thought of that I didn't quite get up here for, but was with the safety report. And do we have any obligation to include like David Avenue staff or any of that in our evacuation plan? Or do you do an evacuation plan for David Avenue? And because we do that, does that obligate us to maybe help them with some training, even though they're not our staff? Just a question about that. And also, I wanted to ask about the community high school. I know that in the past, the community high school has been upgraded. I just didn't know if there was anything that was still, or something new that has come up because it wasn't mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder for anybody that's new to a meeting, that it's public comment. It's not Q&A, but if a board member wants to, it's all weird, a little funky the way it works, but if board member wants to direct that question, they're more than welcome to. The comment's appreciated. And if there's not any other public comment, let's go to the board. And let's start directly to my right with Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. There was so much that was presented to us. One thing, just curious, is for the ongoing stuff, is that going to have to wait till school breaks, or is that stuff you're going to be able to kind of squeeze in?
So we have the October break, December break, and the spring break. So we will do major work during those times, but there are some projects we can fit in. For example, there's some stair treads I want to do at the middle school. I'll probably be doing those as soon as I can get them ordered, because we could slide in after hours on early out days and do a couple at a time. So there's some work we're going to be able to do. But for the most part, we'll have to wait for the breaks.
The other quick question, were there any surprises? Like, did you open up anything and find?
The only surprise was just how bad some of the floor underneath the floor was at Robert Down, but that's expected. It was just a little bit, like I said, about $3,000 more than I expected, but that's not too bad, huh?
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and all the work this summer. Having kids at the schools is the best measure of like how we're doing. And so to have them walk down the hallways at the middle school and be like, oh, the floor is super shiny and they painted and were these numbers here before, is really like something they can take pride in. So I guess that's kind of my measure for how we're doing in some ways. And so it feels like we're headed in the right direction when they're noticing things and we're noticing things, and we're just going to keep going. So thank you, Director Anderson.
You're welcome. I too noticed the shiny floors in the middle school. They were excellent.
Wow, this is awesome. Thank you. And I will, when I'm at the schools, thank the custodial staff and thank everyone there that's put in the hard work. And thank you for continuing to try to order things that just don't come in. That's awesome. the floor at Robert Down, what a difference too. I mean, the whole building just feels so different when you walk in. It feels clean. It's great. I will echo Ms. Shamas's questions about
CHS.
CHS and also about David Avenue. That was in the back of my head too, just sort of wondering about, I don't think I saw an evacuation map for them. For David
It's in the
Avenue?
plans, yes.
It is, okay.
So all campuses will eventually get them, and hopefully by the end of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as CHS, if you'd like me to answer that, actually, right at the end of the year, I met over at CHS with Josh and Linda, our superintendent, assistant superintendent, and we kind of came up with some plans and some things we'd like to do. And so we're getting those in the works.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions. I'm very excited to see your presentation. Thank you. So the charter school that we are landlords of, are they responsible for their own evacuation plan, or is that something that
Yeah, that's
ours.
their own evacuation plan.
Okay.
So we will have an evacuation plan for CHS, but not for the rest of they're responsible for their own.
Thank you for clarifying that. It sounds like these are in no particular order. It sounds like landscaping is coming. So thank you for bringing that up, for mentioning that you have a staff member now. I think really no one's wanted the landscaping to kind of fade, but sometimes it's the lowest priority, and that makes sense to me when we have bigger things like roofs leaking and water mains bursting, or all the things that I've ever heard have happened here. So thank you for having landscaping on your back burner, and it sounds like it might have a chance to kind of come up to the forefront. It's big.
To be completely honest,
Please.
I took our two grounds crew.
Yes.
And we went on a vision tour. And
Okay.
I walked every campus with them, and I gave them my vision, and I showed them our planting plan, and they're on board.
Cool.
We're going out for a third grounds member, so we'll have a full staff of 3 grounds crew.
Wow.
We're developing a plan where we'll be able to have extra time at sites. No more will the crew disperse in the morning. We're going to make it so that we basically go to one school each day for a full day. And that means, like, if we show up, let's say we go on Tuesday to the middle school, that means for the other 4 days of the week, we won't be there. And if 3 people go and attack the work, we'll be able to get the normal work done, and then maybe start little planting areas and, rehabbing. And so that's the vision, and I hope it works. We're going to try it. I think the schools will be loving having 4 days without a weed eater and a blower,
Yeah.
lawnmower.
Yeah.
And being able to have that extra time with 3 people working together just might get the work done that we have a vision for.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then you'll pivot like you always do. So that's great to try new ideas. Thank you for that.
That we will.
Okay, still have like 4 more things. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So a quick question, just because we've heard this as trustees a variety of times, at least in my experience over the past 4 years. We would hear from Forest Grove teachers, perhaps Robert Down teachers, that they didn't have control of their thermostats. Can you talk to that? Is that something that they have control over now?
So what I'm trying to do with there's ed code that requires us to keep it somewhere between 68 and 72 degrees. And so I can't have a teacher wanting their classroom at 66 degrees, or 64 degrees because they're uncomfortable. It's about the students.
Okay.
So again, it needs to be somewhere in that 68 to 72 degrees. So we can give minor thermostat control. I'm hoping with the new thermostats and the way we're going to be able to program them, but it's going to be like plus or minus 2 degrees.
Okay.
We also want, we don't want a thermostat to get turned on and left on all night. We don't want them to be turned off all day and have kids freezing. So we have to maintain some sort of control. And like I said, I monitor them a few times a day. I'll just take a look randomly and see if there's any alerts.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, with no teachers there and the doors closed, Forest Grove ran with near perfection. I mean, I would watch I get like actually a temperature graph that shows how it runs throughout the day. And it looks like basically like a heart monitor. And it would just ping back and forth right there and hover right around 68 degrees all day, 68, 69, 67, 68, all day long with the doors closed and the windows closed. And so I know they're capable of doing it. And we know that the air quality is great when that happens.
Okay.
So Forest Grove is going to be ideal,
Yeah.
now. And so that's the goal for all of our classrooms.
Yeah.
It'll take us, I'll be honest, it'll take us a couple of years to achieve it.
Mhm.
But that's what we're shooting for. And we do still have a couple of problematic rooms like at Robert Down that have what we get what's called solar gain. And that's where the sun shines on the windows and heats up the room. So again, when we have heating only, that means that room might actually climb up to above the 72 degrees. And there's not much we can do about it. And, because the furnace will shut off, but the air is still going to run for circulation for air quality. And so a teacher in that room might comprehend the heater's still on, but trust me, it's not. It's just the air blowing through and the heat's a solar gain issue. So,
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
thank you.
to
Hope I didn't mansplain it.
us. Have you been accused of mansplaining before? That's funny you mentioned that. Okay, so I have three more questions. So the elevators at the middle school, I know that late last year, there was a questionable operation of the elevators at the middle school, but I think there's been progress, so I wanted to ask the
So
horse.
it's a complicated story.
Okay,
And the story of elevators for me goes back about 10 years. The elevators I've been dealing with throughout my career, the state elevator inspectors are hopelessly behind. Much like a bus driver, there's not too many people that want the job, so they're critically understaffed. So much so, like the city of LA has hired their own elevator inspectors. Pacific Grove doesn't really seem to have that ability, I doubt. And so what happens is we're at the mercy of a state inspector to come and inspect an elevator. So what we have is we have a contract with a contractor, elevator professional that comes out and services our elevators. It's been many years ago that one of the elevators was red tagged when an inspector came by, and we have not been able to get that re-inspected and reoperating yet.
okay,
The other one remains operational. It gets serviced regularly, but no state inspector has visited it for probably 2 to 3 years. And that's problematic in the fact that it has not been inspected. But when you contact the state, they just say you're fine to operate it. It's perfectly okay as long as you're having them serviced. Ideally, I'd really love to have them inspected, but without a state inspector, I'm not sure what to do.
okay,
Yeah, and there's no advice on that.
okay. So it's on your radar. One is functioning
Mhm.
and safe. It just needs the paperwork. The other one is out of order right now.
Yes, and
But-
probably would be functional if we could just schedule an inspection. And
Yeah.
But
Okay.
until as long as it's red tagged, we cannot.
Okay, thank you.
I
for
have
that.
contacted the state.
Thank you. Almost last question, you mentioned pickleball. We have some community members that is a really big deal to them. And I understand that. And so can you tell me, like, are we gonna have pickleball courts available at the high school? It sounds like yes, because you're going to paint them. And then are they available to the public? Where are they? What is
So
the
the
story?
pickleball courts will be in the tennis courts by the between the little gym and the big gym that's on
Okay.
the backside.
Mhm.
And technically they're going in for our adult school classes,
Okay,
but I assume on the weekends they'll be available to the public, just like our tennis courts.
just
are.
like tennis courts.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Adults
won't, I don't think we'll be supplying nets though. So they'll have to figure that out
for the weekends.
for the weekends.
Okay, thank you. And then my last is just, I was the last in the round and I just want to make sure it circles back to student rep if unless anybody else has anything. So thank you.
Let's go to our student rep. Yes.
I just probably say thank you for all the work that you've put into beautifying the campuses, and I can really tell that there's a big difference at the high school, and it definitely looks a lot better than
Yeah.
last school year.
We definitely want you to walk away from the school with a diploma in your hand and proud that you went here.
Yeah,
That's our goal. We want
course.
it to be a comfortable and safe learning environment for all of our students. And I would actually invite you to maybe take a tour with me and not just go to the high school. Let's go to all the campuses.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
because I feel that your position here is not just to represent the high school, but all of our students.
Yeah,
So it'd be great if we can take a tour together.
yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I'll just jump in real quick. To you and your team, amazing. It's a drag that you don't get much of a summer break. And driving around too, saw how hard everybody was working, but everything looks amazing. It really, it's coming along so well. It's makes me very, very proud to see that and witness the hard work.
When I ran commercial construction, I'd maybe do 27 million worth of work in a year.
Yeah.
And, you know, think about it, in just 4 months in the last 2 years, we did almost 12. So it's a bit grueling. But I believe in the reason why I'm doing it. So I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to have the staff that I have to be able to get it accomplished. And quite honestly, a ton of support from Josh Shorn. He's been great. Having a boss that believes in you makes it all possible. Thanks, bro.
And Dr. Adamson, did you have something you want to jump in on?
I really, we talk belonging, safety and prosperity. And I think that none of that can happen until we've, really put that priority and focus on the facilities. And so I just want to say, just to you, Director Anderson, what an incredible job you've done. We're reading this year as a management team, the book Trust and Inspire. And you mentioned it earlier, you talked about, all of the things in that, but it really comes down to the people. And I think the ability to have a leader, right, who's able to, number one, it starts with getting the right team and the right people and being able to motivate them, right? Especially during a summer when everyone else has gone off on a vacation and they're here, doing the work. So again, thank you for your leadership in that component, but the summary of the work that we see here on the screen, just excellent job and thank you.
The secret is showing them that I believe in them and they give me a reason to believe in them. So it's mutual. Love those, all of them. They're great people. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I think that's it on this particular item. I do have a request that we take a little 5-minute break. So anybody needs to take a break, then, well, this would be the time. Also a great time for you, student representative. If you need to split, it would be the time to do that. Board, I'm going to suggest that we do a little bit of a flip here, and that we take item E and move it up so that Mr. Emilio can do what he needs to do and then get out of here. Is there any opposition to that? Do we need to make anything more formal than that? All right, so I'm going to move that we move information discussion item E up to the next position in the agenda. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. So I made the motion, a second from Trustee Otmar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. So let's jump on to Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. That again is Director Anderson presenting, along with Mr. Emilio as well.
Hi, so here I am again. Feels familiar. So tonight, we're going to have the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee submit their report to you for consideration. And speaking on behalf of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is Mr. Joe Emilio.
Thank you, John. I'm the chair of the Citizen Oversight Committee. I was only on a couple of times. Third time I was on, suddenly I was nominated to be the chairperson. So they said, you have to give a report to the board. Okay. And I said, what? So through a couple of people that, I made contact with and helped me with it, don't reinvent the wheel. And so I'm here. So you should have the report. And if you have any, I don't want to go through the whole report, but everything seems to be on compliance. It was good that Mr. Anderson did that great report with all the money going everywhere. And it's been a pleasure working with Mr. Anderson and his staff. And if you have any questions, I don't want to have any questions, okay? So, but you have the report, and it's received the report, and I'm not going to go through line by line on it. So,
I love that so hard. I can't even tell you. That is the best presentation I've heard in a while. We do have the report and it is part of the packet. And we do need to go out to public comment. Do we have anyone online? We don't have anybody. Beth Schmass, do you have anything you'd like to? Okay. Yeah, I don't, well, out of respect to your request too, I don't have any questions. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's
Thank you,
get you
Mr.
home and move to my right.
I've got about six, no, just kidding. No questions.
Thank you for volunteering more of your time to serve our community and to the others who volunteer their time to be on the Citizens Oversight Committee. Something I just noticed is this is on as an information item. So are we being asked to approve or this is just to review for tonight? Perfect. Okay. Sorry about the question. That's
Okay.
all I have.
It wasn't directed at him. I have no questions, but thank you very much for your
Okay.
time too. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Happy to do it. But one thing is, you'll see you probably see a vacancy on the member of the Taxpayer Association. I used to be in another life, I was another superintendent of schools, and it was always hard. We had a bond committee, and it's always hard to find the taxpayer one. So just information. Well, thank you very much.
Carolyn, did you have?
Oh,
No way,
question?
no way.
Okay.
I'm not. No. You're a volunteer. I don't want staff getting any ideas that they can come up and tell us we can't ask them questions, but yeah, you're good. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I do have a little follow-up.
Yeah.
Just some good news. I thought I'd just throw it out there. So that hard to get taxpayer person, we found one. So we'll be bringing that to the board shortly.
Wow. Okay.
That
Nice
might
way
be
to
the first time.
put a capper on that, huh?
Is that the first time since you've been on the
Yeah.
board? It's the first time since I've been paying attention too.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought we had somebody, but then we didn't. So now we actually do though.
Yeah,
That's
too.
amazing. No, yeah, well, the board still has to approve it, so, yeah. Okay, great, wonderful, thank you very much. Moving on to item C, a review of and preview of estimated property tax revenues 24-25 fiscal.
Thank you. Thank you, President Swanson. So I'll direct anybody online to page 124 in the packet. I'm going to go through this because I kind of like a question and answer component to our property taxes. So the question I had is how do property taxes increase compared to the prior year? So our actual property tax revenues for the 23-24 year were 35,379,302. You'll see that on page 124. That's an increase over the prior year actuals of 22-23 of just under 6%, 5.9%, or just under $2 million. Do the property taxes meet our budget expectations? They were really close to our budget expectations, as you can see, and that was what was in our adopted budget. It did result in an increase over our expectations on the fourth bullet down of 257,899, just a little bit higher, 0.7% over our revised budget projections from the 23-24 fiscal year. The next component is what do our property tax projections look like for the 24-25 fiscal year? Right now, and included in our adopted budget, you'll see we have property tax projections of just over 38.7 million. That information is given to us from the county tax assessor's office. They gave us a 6.5% increase over the 23-24 actuals. And we believe we will come in really close to that or on target with that. Again, we were just 0.7% higher last year. There will be some changes with the Prop 19 passage, which we haven't yet realized in our property tax revenue. Not just to take a pivot or a sidebar, but those haven't been realized yet. Right. So for a very long time in this district, I like to use the terminology that Pacific Grove, unfortunately, is kind of a Prop 13 capped revenue district, right? Over 60% of the homes in our district are subject to Prop 13, which means that those homes were purchased a very long time ago and are still paying a very, very low rate. But with the passage of Prop 19, that will change over time. And we haven't yet realized that. But I think that the 6.5% increase over prior fiscal year projections from the county tax assessor's office is starting to take that into consideration. So in the fiscal impact side, it's really just an increase of 257,899 over our projections, which are an increase to our actuals for the 23-24 adopted budget. And with that, I'll open it for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's first go for a public comment. Anybody online? No one? Anyone in the room with comment on this particular item? Seeing no one, let's go to the board. To my far right, Trustee Carolyn, you got anything here?
Thank you. This is very clear. I am excited that we're getting a little bit more than we estimated. Small amount, but still good. I have a question. So see this report, this is so clear and easy to read. Can you use this software to generate all those other reports that we see, like your budget stuff?
I can. So absolutely. What I've carried forward is past practice.
These years. of
Using,
learning.
so the budget book
Okay.
is important that we, the 177-page budget book, which I present on interim reporting and adopted budget. That's what my predecessor did. And yes, I've been doing that. However, absolutely. So what you're seeing here is an export from Escape, our financial management system. We can use our SACS software or our Escape software to generate these reports as well. In fact, I use these reports to populate the budget book, which I will still maintain for this district.
Sure.
But yes, I would very much like to move in that direction.
This is so easy to read.
That's
Thank
the
you.
board's direction.
Well, it's my recommendation. The rest of them have to agree, but I like this format. Thank you.
Okay, so that's pretty funny because that's what I noticed too, is that I could actually read it. So thanks. That was wonderful. I'm also excited that we've got an increase coming in. So I don't have many questions or any questions, I suppose, at all. Thank you.
I think I agree with them in all the ways. It was super clear and concise, and also I do love this format. Feels easier for my fiscally lay or whatever layperson eyes. Well, I don't know. That's not the right thing to say if you manage a budget, is it? Dang it. Okay. Anyways, thank you for the presentation. I'm done.
Yep,
It's
not
the
too much
quickest,
to
yeah.
add. I'm a little punchy, so I will say, if you only go to this, I'm gonna miss those other 150 pages, so. But no, I do really appreciate this, and it is encouraging to see the increase. If you had your crystal ball, 6.5% is a lot. Do we think that is realistic? Into the crystal ball, or are we a little high? It seems high to me, given our year-over-year increases personally, but I don't know.
So we had kind of an anomaly, right? A couple of years ago, we had the 8.9% increase, and I've always talked about that as kind of a holdover from the COVID property taxes that were held back on the commercial properties. So I think 6.5% is a little ambitious, but again, we're taking the recommendation from the county tax assessor's office based on projected assessed valuation. I believe, like I said, they're starting to take into consideration the changes to how property taxes are assessed. Is it ambitious? I think it is. We've always carried in our budget around 5.5% increase over actuals in the prior fiscal year. This year we want a percentage above that. So I think it's a wait and see game, but that's why we have an October budget revision. That's why we do our interim reporting, and then we'll kind of track it throughout the year.
Thank you.
It's astonishing when I look at it, and I'll make this quick. Just the increases over the years, and I think back to the Bill Phillips days when we would always turn to Bill, and be like, so what's going on? It's like, it's like, how much longer can we ride this? And we've been able to continue to ride it. At some point, something different's going to happen, but I'm grateful that you look at that budget again from when I first came on the board, right? Our income is like 20 million, and now we're coming up on 40, right? We still somehow manage to spend it all the time too. But anyway, I appreciate all the clarity in the report, and that's all I got. Thank you. And I think that's everybody, right? So, okay, so let's move on to item D, which is review of district enrollment. And again, that is you, Assistant Superintendent Josh Jordan.
Thank you. So on page 129, you'll see the cover page showing our total district enrollment has been steadily in decline. What I'm happy to report on this year is actual enrollment CBEDS counts at the start of the beginning of the school year is actually at 1774. My numbers are off. I didn't have the numbers what we were going off of was projected enrollment. When I built this cover page now, thanks to Director Binder, we have the CBEDS numbers from the day one reporting. So we're at 1774 enrolled, which is good. And on the next page on 130, you can see kind of how we break it down by site. Forest Grove Elementary School now has, again, 2 transitional kindergarten classes, and you can see the breakdown of TK students all the way through our SDC population there. For a total enrollment of 349 students as compared to the 357 on day one in 2023. Again, these numbers might be a little bit skewed because the CBEDS report that I received on the 6th changed this a bit by a few. Robert Down now has 2 transitional kindergarten classes. You can see our TK numbers, kinder all the way down through Montsevier. And then noting our total enrollment for Robert Down is 434. They're starting to, I would say that, we'd like to see the gap starting to close between the 2 elementary schools and staying pretty consistent. You can see as compared to 419 on day one. So it did go up substantially, but we also added a couple of classes there. The middle school, we had a really big class that left last year, the 8th grade class. They talked about it at the high school. I think it's 145 students went into 9th grade this year from the middle school. So again, 434 students on day one. That's pretty substantial. On our high school at 544. Community high is staying steady at around 10 students over there at community high school. And then just one thing to note under the fiscal impact, just to remind the public, and of course the board's fully aware that because we're basic aid, the average daily attendance ADA, there's no real impact or effect to fiscal. Aside from our TK numbers, we do receive ADA for our TK population. So an increase in our TK population does give us an increase in categorical revenue from the state. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Right. All right. Thank you. Let's go out for public comment first. Do we have anybody online? No one. In the room, Beth Shamas.
One of my favorite subjects. And I bring this up every year. So yes, it's good at the elementary schools. We don't really need to worry about that so much, except managing maybe, do we need add another teacher or whatever, because our parents like no more than 24, I think, in a classroom. But when we get to the middle school and the high school especially, that's where I really concerned about the amount of kids that are not there. Because that does impact so many other parts of your culture, your sports, music, all your clubs, and just having enough kids to make a nice mix of camaraderie. So one of the things I mentioned before to Dr. Adamson was, I feel like we do not promote our schools, or we don't promote the middle school, we don't promote the high school in terms of bragging. Okay, we need to. And because our schools, I'll put our schools against any of our private schools. We have really good teachers. We have fantastic curriculums. We are always looking at cutting edge. And even if we don't quite get there, but we are very open to innovation. So that should bode well for us. And I think, but we don't brag about it. I'd like to see us brag about it. I'd like to see us have maybe a brochure or some kind of way that we actually, just like the private schools do, that's what they do. They promote themselves. We need to promote ourselves because it is, this is where you start to see it. Like parents start to get freaked out about kids going to the middle school and then to the high school. And so, but we need to be out there really reassuring parents like, hey, this is good. This is good for your kids. Your kids are going to be safe. They're going to be well educated and it's free. Save your money for college, So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that input. I'm not entirely sure what drives the demographics on this. I mean, a lot of people have just left California too. I talked to people that I work with who are in Boise and Bend, in Missoula, right? People that have moved to New Hampshire, where it's just like a lot of, and again, I don't know what drives the numbers exactly. We do have great schools here. I don't dispute that we could try to pimp it out a little bit more. Bad word. Advertise a little bit more. So, but I think it's complicated too. It's because as people leave the state, other people are still coming in. I mean, we see that too as properties sell and property values continue to go up and the homes are still bought. So complicated. It's worth looking into. I'm glad to see the overall numbers that we've got an uptick. So that's heartening. But so I appreciate the comments and that's the extent of my comments. So I'm going to move it off to my right, Dr. Hazen.
Since you started to go down that road, President Swanson, I'll follow a little bit. Just that, I mean, I think a big part of this too is just the cost of housing. It's really hard for a family to move to Pacific Grove if they don't have a ready situation here. So I think that's something I'm encouraged that with our joint city and school board subcommittee, we can try to start down, because I think that affordable housing is one of the biggest limitations to bring in new families. That said, I mean, agree. I think those transitions are always tough. So the things we can do to help with that, like Ms. Shamas said, or also figuring out how we can provide more exposure for our schools, because they are amazing. They are great. They may not be right for every kid, but for, the majority, it's hard to get a better education anywhere, especially for the price you pay. So I'd love to, see what we could explore on that advertising side as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said, both on the promoting and communications front and with a lot of things, topics, and including enrollment and keeping our kids. I feel like comms and communications, how we engage with the public and our community and promote ourselves, is really going to be a key to us doing well. And I'm just excited that you're leading us in that regard. The other thing is, I totally agree with you. I think just cost of living, costs to have a child and raise a child, and people are making different decisions. Just lower birth rates in general, and then just it's kind of a lot of factors adding up over time, and this is where we're at. But I do still think, we do have opportunities to promote ourselves and tell people what we're about. So yeah, thank you.
I agree with that. I also think that we have to take into account that we are kind of a unique situation where we have an influx of military families, and it's really dependent on some military families don't have kids. And so it will come in waves and it's going to ebb and flow. Remote work post-COVID, and that's huge because families that were barely making it here can now keep their job and move somewhere else and live a better life, maybe from a financial standpoint. So I can see how numbers are dropping. But some of it's transient, and then it's hard in this area to even gauge where next year is going to bring us, just because there's so much that's in fluctuation here. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Thank you. Sorry, I ate too many lifesavers. Now, it had the opposite effect that I was hoping it would. Josh, when you say our TK kids get ADA, is that like $500 a day, or like what is ADA for TK kids?
Yeah, it's actually a formula. So it's not like your traditional ADA where like a base grant amounts.
Yeah, lay it on me. How much is it?
Yeah, it's minimal. Let's put it that way. It's more like, so if we talk about local control funding formula, we talk about supplemental and concentration grants as like an add-on to your base ADA. That's kind of what we're getting for TK. So it's not really, I can't give you an actual number.
That's what okay. Thank you. So you don't know when you're going to look it up.
But yeah, but
Okay.
it's like a concentration and supplemental concentration grant. So it's kind of like an add-on to, we don't receive base ADA for our school district, because we're not LCFF, but because we are expanding the UPK population or universal pre-K program, we get like additional funds for that. And I can bring that back to the board.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
One, I'm sorry, we'll go around one more time. Just another quick observation, because I lived through it too. It's like, both my daughters were Forest Grove kids, mostly PG middle. And so I witnessed then what like private school and online school was like. And it's like those private schools too, which are very expensive, are actively recruiting, and they're making deals too, because they're saying the same, or they're seeing the same thing too. And I don't know, again, if it's online or what, or homeschooling or what, but it's like seeing them actively recruit students hard because their numbers are down too. So it's not just what we're seeing here in PG public school. So anyway, just that observation, please.
I don't want to make any extra work for anybody, but I just wondered if we have the numbers of how many kids are moving out of the district, just an average per year, or what the influx is of military students. And I question too, I suppose, I don't know it's going to be rental housing. So if there are more rentals that are available and, closer to Robert Down, then that's going to make a difference. So there's so many pieces to the equation, but it's just a wondering of how many kids are coming in and out that are military based. It might just give us a little bit more perspective of what the fluctuation is for numbers.
All right, microphone is off. Dr. Adamson, review of legal fees, item F.
I know it has my name next to it, but it's actually Assistant Sip Jones. I'm going to turn it over to
Okay.
him.
Right, so we brought the 23-24 legal fees back to the board in, I want to say, I apologize, I think was it June? Okay, it was June. And when we brought those numbers to the board, it was through April of 2024. So this is basically bringing us through the end of the fiscal year. You can see a relatively large jump at the bottom there. I did a side-by-side comparison as well. And, some of the areas that we've seen a lot of movement in the last year, general student fees, which tends to be kind of a catch-all for legal. The delta there was around 56,000 from the prior fiscal year. You can see general facilities and business fees jumped by almost 50,000. We've had a lot of construction agreements. We've had a lot of support from our legal team as it relates to construction and business. Also, business tends to be kind of a catch-all. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the business office. But you can also see there, we've had, again, settlement agreements and special education. Those were kind of the large ones that stood out. Jump of 44,000 over the prior fiscal year in one instance, jump of 28,000 over the prior fiscal year in another. So it's really tough to kind of nail down actually why we're seeing the legal fees jump as high as we have. We did go through a superintendent selection process last year. There's a lot attributed to this. So this wasn't kind of something that jumped out at me as kind of the house is on fire, so to speak. I think we built our budget according to prior fiscal year trends. I think that last year might have been somewhat of an anomaly. And again, when we're dealing with specific student issues, it's really tough to kind of gauge how many we will have throughout the fiscal year, whether we're in an OHA hearing or we're dealing with settlement agreements. But all in all, yeah, there's been quite a substantial change over the prior fiscal year. I think we were at 308,000 in the prior fiscal year, and we jumped to 574. So that is a change of 266,000 over the prior fiscal.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go out to public comment. Anyone online? No? Anyone in the room? Beth? No? Okay. Let's move to board comments, insights. I'm going to jump in right away. I'm glad that we had that increase in property taxes because it just about covered the increase in our legal fees. So that's all I got. It's like, so much of this stuff, well, it is all necessary. And there, it's like when you have to bring in the lawyers, we bring in the lawyers, and I'm glad that we have a good team. It's not something that you just, put on eBay looking for a lawyer. So that's all.
Yeah, not much to say other than that. I think I can say this because I have a very lawyerly family tree, but it's like it's one of these things that, you know, when you have to use a lawyer, the only person that usually wins is the lawyer. So it's one of these things that it's a necessary evil. I hope we as a district can do our best as we have been to try to settle things without involving legal and reduce our burdens that require them to take action on, you know, whether it's PRAs or things like that, just so that we can try to keep numbers down. Because it's the only thing that irks me. I mean, it was good to hear about the increase in property taxes. That's a good reminder, but it's still like the amount of money that takes away from what we could be spending on education is always a little hard for me to swallow. I'll say that. Not that I don't love Lou and his team. They've been amazing, but I just would rather pay them less.
Trustee McNary, the lawyer in the room.
What kind of evil?
Necessary evil. Necessary came first before you said that.
I don't have anything to add. I think, like you explained, it makes sense why it was an anomaly. I saw how much we had to go to legal while we were in transition most of the last year. So if anything, that and settlements, I mean, I think when we finish with this year, we'll probably be somewhere more in what's in line historically. So thanks for compiling it for us.
I don't have anything to add. If the house isn't on fire, then I think we're good, and I expect it's going to go down next year. We had a lot going on this year, so thank you.
Nothing further.
I think that covers it then, and so let's move on to item G, board policy updates for June 2024. And that is again, Dr. Adamson.
Yes, that is
presenting.
my item. So we have a total of 32 policies that we brought forward to our policy committee at the last meeting, which was in July. It was great discussion that we had through all of them. Again, it's that reminder for me how grateful I am for this committee. I think I've shared it before. It's not something that I had seen and we had in my former district, and I see the value of it. And I just really appreciate everyone coming to the table. You know, I think for our staff as prepared as they are, even though we had staff in some new roles, you know, they really took that piece on and really to be able to, you know, take that ownership of the areas that they oversee. Again, I'm very grateful to our two board members who sit on that policy committee. And I think, you know, we all left, I think, that meeting feeling like, wow, you know, there were just great discussions, and there's such, you know, I think anytime you get that ability to really look at policy, look at the changes that are being proposed, and really kind of consider, you know, what we're, you know, deciding at that time, what staff is giving their proposal on is, you know, what changes we want to adopt and what we're recommending. So really, you know, that's what you see before you. With most of them, I think it was, you know, just very easy in the sense that we were able to go ahead and, you know, really approve all of the proposals that staff were bringing forward. I'll draw attention just to the very last one, which was specific to meetings and notices. There was quite a bit of discussion on that one. Just because, if you'll recall, you know, our current policy speaks to, you know, how we do our meeting minutes, and we've just made a recent change, you know, to that, where we're, you know, really just doing what is required and not putting all of the detail in, because that was taking such a huge amount of time. And so, you know, a lot of the language that we've put in there was recommended again by, you know, our legal counsel. And so, as you can see, you know, there were some adjustments that we made to that. I think the piece that came into discussion there was if we were putting in, we weren't, you know, we were linking parts to the actual video recording instead of doing the detail, which I think is wonderful. But the question had come up, well, how long are we keeping the records to that recording? So really there was a discussion that really involved our, you know, IT department. And we'll probably be bringing, you know, we wanted to be able to make some of those changes now, and then maybe bringing, you know, that back at a later date to really talk a little bit more about, you know, length of time if we want to specify that. I think the good news is that what we found out is that really we're not, our current board policy says that we'll destroy any recordings after, I think it was 30 days or 45 days, and we're not doing that. So I think we took that piece out of it to leave it, you know, sort of silent. But again, I think that the changes we have now allow us to, if we currently it talks about doing also, you know, the first and third Thursday of every month. It allows us to now, you know, also have a little bit of flexibility on that as well. So, but overall, any questions or comments that you have on any of the policies brought forward?
Well, we do need to go to public comment first on this, right? So, and anybody in the room? Okay, so, all right, so we got that out of the way. Board. Let's start with trustee McNary.
I don't have anything to add, but thank you.
Trustee Elmore. Trustee Carolyn.
I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Hagquist. I think this was his first policy meeting and he came very prepared. And he was succinct, but also prepared, which are two things that I love. So I think you did an excellent job. Thank you for that. It was nice to see your face there.
Trustee Dr. Hazen.
Yeah, just one comment that I brought up a bit earlier. I would just, first of all, thank you to the policy committee for all the work here. I should have started with that. But the 5131.8, I would love to have a quick discussion of, again, not jumping the gun ahead of public input, but is that something that we should revisit as policy before ARs are drafted? Or is that something we do want to advise the district to go ahead with on ARs? And I'd love thoughts from, that's a cell phone.
Oh, the cell phone. Well, I don't think I think that would be, I don't think we can make that decision now because it's not on the agenda and it would have to be something that we would make it, put on a future agenda to put on the policy committee for the next meeting, right? If we want to.
Yeah, but I thought under this item, can we not discuss it as a potential to put on a future because it's part of the policy, or you're saying because it wasn't? Okay.
No, yeah.
Future agenda item, right?
Okay.
All right. Who else in the room aside from the trustee McNary and trustee Carolyn and Dr. Hagquist? Anybody else on that particular committee that's in the room? You were, so, and just props to everybody because it's a lot of work. It's a lot, and yeah, it's no easy task. It's like I remember when I went through the one round, and it can be mind numbing at times too. So it's just a lot of words, and so I'm sure the entire community and district appreciates that too. But it's worth mentioning again just the extra work that goes into that and making sure that we're up to speed. So I think that's it for that particular item, and now we are moving on to item H, future agenda items. Dr. Adamson.
Well, yes, so this is your opportunity to share any future agenda items you might want us to be bringing forward at future meetings. So I'm going to open up to the board.
And we need to first go out to public comment on future agenda items. Just so actually, that's a little weird because we're not, we don't have any future agenda items yet for the public to comment on unless it's one that they actually want. So anyway, but there's nobody online anyway. And anybody in the room? Okay, so we can skip over that and now go to board. Trustee Otmar, begin with you.
I don't have anything now. It sounds like things for Narcan are in the works, and I believe that we have that ball rolling. So I don't think it needs to be added at this time. Does that seem right? Okay.
Trustee Carolyn?
I don't have anything, but well, okay, I guess I kind of do just because to Elliot's point. So Elliot, in the presentation today that staff did for the board policy, so that kind of bucket of work is review current board policy, develop language for AR policy, and present that proposed to the policy committee. So I think it's in there.
Okay,
I
I wasn't
part of
sure
it.
with the review if that was actually allowing for an opportunity to add or edit, if that makes sense. So as long as that is before I just don't want an AR to be drafted before and then have us come back to policy and say, actually, yeah. So that's
I
great.
appreciate that clarification. I think that's what Josh probably had in mind because they interact so much with each other. So yeah,
Perfect, that's great.
I got nothing else.
Yep, and that was the only thing I was going to mention. I think actually the nice thing is the timing of the next policy committee meeting should align well with the feedback. So I think that's would be my only pin to put in.
Trustee McNary, I don't think we hit you yet.
Nothing to add.
Okay, great. And thank you, Trustee Otmar, for mentioning Narcan again, because I was like, there is something, and that was what it was. So, and that was what I had. And that is it for that particular item H. Our next board meeting will be August 15. And with that, thanks everybody for staying. We're adjourned.